Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lorebeards and Roleplaying. I believe Vera is on her way and should be joining us very soon. Uh, I don't have any other information, so in the meantime, it is basically just me. But that's okay because today we're talking about Cyberpunk 2020, which is the basis for one of the, I would say, most successful CRPGs of all time. Certainly one of the coolest, which is Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red. Um, the creator of Cyberpunk is, of course, Maximum Mike Pondsmith, a celebrated designer. I would argue that Mike Pondsmith is a fucking genius. He is a visionary. This man has seen ahead of a lot of trends that would shape pop culture from the earlier era, especially from the 80s. Hey, Saba, welcome. I see people are coming into the chat here now, so that's good because it means we're not just shouting into the void. Gotta admit, that's probably one of my biggest fears for doing this show is I'll show up, start talking, and it's just me yakking. Godzilla says, would you rather live in Night City or Gotham? Believe it or not, I think I'd rather live in Night City, which is weird. But God, they're both bad places. Neither one of them is a place you would want to voluntarily live. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about Cyberpunk. It's pretty great. It's a game that goes all the way back to 1988, a boxed set called Cyberpunk: The Role-Playing Game of the Dark Future, which was probably I think Shadowrun came out a little bit earlier. So it wasn't the first Cyberpunk role-playing game, but it was definitely one of the most influential. Kind of a fun fact is back in the 80s and 90s, I would say probably up until the release of 2077, I would argue, Shadowrun was the more popular role-playing game. Whenever you got people together and you wanted to play a Cyberpunk game, most of the time they were like, okay, let's play Shadowrun. But Cyberpunk, won that race with the production of Cyberpunk 2077, and of course Edge Runners, the anime that's attached to it. There's a new season of that coming out soon, which is pretty cool. Anyway, it's a fun fact. Hey, I've wasted enough time so Vera can join us. Hey, Vera.
Hey, hi. Sorry for the delay. I've got a little bit of new technology. I had to get my net running suit on to make all this happen.
Nice. You have to evade the AIs from beyond the black wall.
Hey, don't impugn me. I can't speak to that.
Look at that. You're reclining. That is cool. I like that.
Oh yeah, no, I can do anything now. We're
nice.
We're in the new era. There's been some technology happening, so a little bit of cyberpunk tech perhaps.
Are you going full lawnmower man over there?
Little bit. Almost as good looking too. We're working on that. Hi, I'm Vera.
My God.
I write for Warhammer Fantasy. I make stuff online. I'm a very 3D creature.
Yes, fully. Wow, look at that. Fully imagined in the digital realm.
For the first time in a minute. Yeah, it's been a bit. I've been doing some various forms of troubleshooting the last little while. So we're back in now. We've got there.
You're jacked in. You're ready to rock. Hi, everybody. I'm Ross Watson. I'm a game designer and author. I have worked on a whole bunch of role-playing games like Torg Eternity, Star Wars Edge of the Empire, Savage Worlds Rifts, and most of the Warhammer 40k role-playing game line, along with many others. Godzilla wants to know if you'd rather live in Night City or Gotham.
For me, it's Night City, just because Gotham has, I would say, larger scale problems. Night City is constantly plagued by petty crime, violence, bloodshed, all these horrible things. But you get chromed out, you can brain dance, all that's cool. In Gotham, you are always one bad wind away from turning into atomic sludge. Or when things get bad there, they get bad big.
Yeah, Scarecrow poisons the water supply again.
Oh no, my milk tastes kind of funny. Nice knowing you.
Right, I mean that's basically how it goes.
Well, Night City, it's like a bigger version of the problems that I already deal with living in the city.
That's true.
Duck and cover if you hear sirens, etc. All right.
Listen, Choom, we ain't no gonks, okay? This here's a
True.
preem. This here's a preem show. Our fixer hired us to collect some iron from Arasaka, so we're gonna Delta. I love the slang of Cyberpunk. It's one of the coolest things about it. I was just telling everybody that this game came out in 1988 in a box set. It was created by Maximum Mike Pondsmith, who's possibly one of the most visionary and genius game designers of my generation. I know that's a bold statement, but I'm going to back it up because Mike Pondsmith is not just a game designer. He has a Bachelor of Arts in graphic design, and we're gonna talk more about where that led him. But he's also got a Bachelor of Science in behavioral psychology, which I thought was a very interesting and apt point to bring up for his biography.
You're a really interesting guy.
Behavioral psychology. I think that is probably one of the best things to study if you want to be a role-play game designer. Though, it should be pointed out that Pondsmith is not first and foremost a tabletop game designer. He's actually first and foremost a graphic designer. And he's got started in the video game industry very, very early on. He was working for the video game industry. Let's see, would have been... Well, it got started in the early 80s. I want to say like 84. And the tabletop stuff was just sort of a thing he did on the side. He got a copy of Dungeons & Dragons, but he was not interested in the setting. He was interested in the mechanics. He liked the idea of how you could replicate, the feeling of being immersed in another setting with dice mechanics and the other accoutrement, if you will, of role-playing game. And the first thing he decided to do was, okay, that's cool. I like Traveler, so I'm going to redesign Traveler. And I think that's a very bold direction to start, because Traveler is not an easy game to play. It's a lot of math. You need a slide rule to figure out like how far you're going to go and how fast you're going to go through space. So redesigning that's a big step.
Well, that may have been part of the goal, is to minimize the amount of rulers you need.
I don't know. That's something I'd have to ask him sometimes. Like, what was his main goal? But he got started in the video game industry working on Ultima games under Richard Garriott, the famous Richard Garriott, and he figured out that there were trends that were starting to crop up in America, trends that he could be on the cutting edge of if he decided to make games out of them. One of the first trends he got into was anime, and specifically giant robot mecha anime. He got his hands on a copy of Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam, the manga, couldn't read it, but figured out what he could from looking at the artwork, and then created a game called Mechton in 1984. This is the first role-playing game he ever created. By the way, Mechton is a pretty good game. I've played Mechton. I've enjoyed it.
It's very old school cool to read manga with no translation at all and just like try and vibe it out.
Yep. That's believe it or not, that's how I got into Ranma 1/2 back in the days.
Hey.
I watched it unsubtitled and it was just like trying to figure it out from context.
Well, you're watching Ranma. It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
It was difficult. It was difficult.
That's crazy water they got in Japan.
Yeah, let's just say I had to ask friends for help from time to time to figure out just what the hell I was looking at. But this is something I share with Pondsmith. Then he got into Cyberpunk, and believe it or not, the first thing that got him into Cyberpunk was not Neuromancer, which is a lot of people's entry in the 80s. Instead, he got in through a book called Hardwired by Walter John Williams. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this at all.
Not outside of the biography, no.
Well, fun fact, Walter John Williams was actually part of Pondsmith's gaming group. So I presume, they had a conversation one day of like, hey, I've been writing this book and there's people I'm really interested in it. And Pondsmith's like, oh, okay, let me check it out. And so the whole Megacorp versus the Underdog Edge Runner thing, that comes pretty closely mapped onto the structure of Hardwired. Cyberpunk would eventually have a Hardwired supplement because of this connection to Walter John Williams.
Oh yeah. I know that a lot of the aesthetic interest came from Blade Runner as well. It sort of defined the vibe he wanted it to have, this sort of dingy, high flying metropolis where there's this strong distinction between the richer elements and the poorer elements. There's gritty alleyways and flying cars.
Yeah. Well, Blade Runner, I have often talked about in film circles as like it's a very important film. I wouldn't say it's a great film. Like it's like I like it, but I don't love it. But it's extremely important, and it's very atmospheric. And it did create a visual language for cyberpunk as a genre. There were two other big influences on the creation of the cyberpunk role-playing game, though. One is yet another film called Streets of Fire, which I don't know if you've ever seen.
I don't think so.
Streets of Fire is great. It's got a sledgehammer fight between Michael Pare and Willem Dafoe at the end.
I'm so interested. Wait a minute. Tell me more, please.
And if you're a fan of, if you like Bubblegum Crisis is built on Streets of Fire plus Blade Runner.
Okay.
So go watch Streets of Fire if you're a Bubblegum Crisis fan, and you'll be, if you were like me and you've never seen it, I saw it like a few years back, and I was just that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I was just pointing at the screen, going, "Oh my God, that's Bubblegum Crisis! That's where they got this. That's where they got that." Anyway, so those two things also influenced Pondsmith in his view of cyberpunk. So later on, of course, they would publish a Bubblegum Crisis role-playing game as part of that inspiration. Then you get to 1988. He's actually got his company now, Artel Saurian Press. And this is where we get Cyberpunk. And it's pretty great. It was, the first version of it was 2013, set in the far-off world of 2013.
The distant future, yeah.
Right, the distant future of 2013. And this is where, he had posited an alternate history starting with the United States becoming entangled in a catastrophic Central American conflict, and this creates a military coup and an economic collapse, and just a whole bunch of stuff happens that then leads to a cyberpunk future. It won the Best Science Fiction Role-Playing Game Gamers' Choice Awards in 1989. So that's a very strong thing for a early publisher who's not D&D.
He was already tapped into this like emerging market for this kind of fiction, for this genre that had not really existed until William Gibson, and then kind of defined it, which is impressive.
Well, I mean, I said he's a visionary, so let's talk about just a few other Artel Saurian products. We talked about Mechton, which was right on the cutting edge of giant robot anime and giant robots fighting other giant robots, which was huge in the 80s. I can tell you, I was there. I'm a man of a certain age. Then he did Teenagers from Outer Space, which was an anime role-playing game, probably the first. Certainly the first one I ever heard of. And that was well before anime became a big deal. And then, of course, Cyberpunk, which came along and hit, I think, just, again, a little bit after Shadowrun, but I would say he hit the tropes and the themes much more accurately than Shadowrun probably did. Not to say Shadowrun is bad. We did an episode on Shadowrun last week. Go check that out. Yes, we're hitting the cyberpunk hard lately. We've got Shadowrun last week and now this. Now, have you played Cyberpunk 2077, Vera?
I have. I have not finished it. I played the start. Or do you? Okay, we're talking video games, or are we talking like
video game? Yeah, it's video game. Yeah.
Because there is a RPG X pack for it. But
Right.
yes, I have played the game. Not very far in. I plan to play it on stream soon and like really go for it because I've been meaning to like sit down and play through. But it is amazing. It is fantastic. It is pretty cool. It launched in a rough state, but it is. I think one of the better like open world games I've played.
It's outstanding. I love it. The music is sick, and not for nothing, it has an anime spinoff which is getting a new season soon. Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which will crush your heart if you watch it. It's really good, but damn.
Yeah, Yeah, Edge Runners is fantastic. I would say it's like a very special little project. I know that season 2 is going to be an entirely different genre of thing as well, because the first season was sort of a high flying action violent ballad thing. This is looking to be more noir.
Yeah, which I'm excited to see. Also, the animation studio behind it is amazing. Trigger.
Yes.
So, have you played any of the Interlock system games?
I have not. I'm familiar with Interlock, but I have not played Interlock.
So we did an episode a while back on the Hero system, and if you want to go check out that episode, we talked a little bit about the collaboration between Artel Saurian and Hero, which created Champions New Millennium, and the Interlock system evolved in that particular aspect. So anyway, what I'm saying is go check out that episode if you want to read more or hear more about how the Interlock system has adapted to other things over time. But the Interlock system is the house system for Artel Saurian, and it runs Mechton, it runs Cyberpunk. It basically runs all of their games to some extent. It is a skill-based system. It means characters are defined by individual skills rather than class packages. And this came out at a time where the Dungeons and Dragons class and level model was the dominant paradigm. And I mean, that's still true today, that it is the dominant paradigm.
You see shades of this in like modern Warhammer RPG design also, because like you had definitive tiers in like OG Dark Heresy, but we moved over to like evolving archetype levels of the various attributes and skills, and like 2E, and now in 4th edition fantasy, etc. So there are elements to that present, like at Cubicle 7.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of this, believe it or not, the Interlock system has influenced many, many designers, including myself. Yep. And basically, stats and skills go on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 represents the maximum achievable human ability. Resolution involves combining your relative attributes, any applicable skill rating, and then you roll a 10-sided dice against a difficulty value set by the game master. What's funny about this is Interlock was one of the very first tabletop games to use the concept of roll to beat a difficulty value as its core mechanic. Which is, I mean, obviously Dungeons and Dragons is the first, right? But this is one of the first places it was codified, it was laid out, and it was explained in a manner that game designers like myself were like, oh, I get it now. Like it, finally clicks. Interlock also used the D6 for damage, but it was primarily a D10 game. And their combat system has its own name, the Friday Night Firefight, which I think is great. So unlike D&D, where characters gain hit points as they level up, it can absorb huge amounts of damage over time, especially as they get higher level. Cyberpunk's characters do not become more resilient as you advance. Instead, combat is very, I don't want to say realistic, but it's grittier. It's location-based. Bullets can hit specific body parts. Wounds can create ongoing penalties. Armor can be depleted. A well-placed single shot can kill just about any character, regardless of how experienced they are. This is something that this game has shared with many other games that have a slightly more grittier feel to them. And unlike, say, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, in Cyberpunk, you don't have the fate points to save you.
Yeah, no. You kind of just die. It's a violent game. Oh, 1 second here.
Nope. She's descending.
Not to offend as I descend.
One of the most celebrated parts of the Interlock system is something called the life path, which definitely influenced me. I adapted this into Rogue Trader when I was working on Rogue Trader. It's a storytelling device for character creation that generates your character background through random rolls or guided choices. Basically, you have a series of tables that determine your events or relationships or tragedies, formative experiences. The Janelle Jacques would go on later to create something called central casting, which is this concept, but taken all the way up to 11. By the way, Central Casting books, amazing. Highly recommend them, especially for people who just love random rolls for character generation and seeing what kind of weird stuff happens for like your backstory and your, where you were born and how many siblings you have, things like that. Interlock was the first time that this became a core part of character creation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the signature element of the life path, this was actually mentioned, this was highlighted by Forbes magazine 6 years ago, back in 2020. Forbes magazine was reviewing Cyberpunk Red, the newest version. And Forbes magazine was like, hey, players are going to be a lot more interested in a job if it's given to you by your old flame rather than some random stranger. And that is basically what life paths are for, is you can, it helps you define relationships and histories and ways to hook your character into the game in ways that hadn't. Before then, it was like your backstory was kind of up to you. Do you even have a backstory? Often you didn't.
Yeah, and this is like a good conceit for a lot of reasons. We've talked about that shift into tabletop games being more about building out a narrative and verisimilitude and fitting into the setting. We saw this in D&D.
Title drop.
Like life paths were so iconic. They wound up in the video game too. Like you could be a street kid, you could be a nomad, you can be a corpo suit formerly.
Now, in the video game, these life path choices do something really kind of interesting and cool, because the character of V, which is the character you play in the 2077 video game, yes, almost like Vera.
Wow, cool.
The character of V that you play has a predetermined story arc that you get to make choices along the way that determine the essential outcome of that arc. But the life paths that are set up in Cyberpunk 2077 do this in a really interesting way, because each of them hooks you into specific things that you need to have, like a connection to Arasaka or some understanding of Night City. But they all offer a unique view of the setting. Like if you're a corpo, you actually get a ride over the city in a one of their hover cars, Whereas if you're a street kid, you're like in an alleyway. Or if you're a nomad, you start out like you have to drive into the city from the Badlands. And it's a really cool way to give you a different context to your character's experiences moving forward. And I would like to, I know this is typically not a show about video games, but just to compare and contrast, it's so much more well integrated into the story of the game than, say, how the Soul Survivors story is in Fallout 4, which is very much binary. Like if you play the wife, the husband dies. You play the husband, the wife dies, and then it's all basically the same from then on. So.
Well, even in the case of an actually good game like Baldur's Gate 3, you're given like individual pieces of dialogue that reflect your character's origin and so on, but you don't feel as if the structure you approach the game through changes entirely as a result of it.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I think Baldur's Gate 3 did it well. I think Cyberpunk 2077 did it really, really well.
Yeah.
And comparing it to Fallout 4, which I don't think did it very well. So
bad to good to great.
Yeah, basically. Ricky Chapman, thanks for the super chat. Ricky Chapman is our local RPG enthusiast, and he's always telling us about his campaigns. He says, we love Cyberpunk. We remember so many fun toys. Wolvers were a personal favorite of ours when we were flatlining Kennedys and Inquisitors. So Wolvers is a piece of cyberware that gives you claws that come out of your hands, kind of like a certain comic book character called Wolverine, which is why they're called Wolvers. Flatlining, of course, is Cyberpunk language for killing. And I believe Kennedys, was that a gang? In the game?
That sounds right.
I think so. Rick Chapman, thanks so much for the super chat. This is the part of the show. This is the part of the show where I tell you that super chats are the best way to keep more content coming your way from Lorebeards, and it directly impacts your hosts. So we're very grateful to everyone who wants to support us with the super chat. So do you know what the hacking mechanics are called in Cyberpunk? You probably do.
Net running.
Absolutely. And Yeah, before Shadowrun and Cyberpunk as role-playing games, there really wasn't an antecedent for the idea of hacking a computer with your brain.
Yeah, I would say that this determined a lot of the aesthetic of that, how it's meant to feel. There's a whole vibe that goes with your netrunner and your team. Like we talked about decking during Shadowrun. This is a little different.
Yeah, so in the world of Cyberpunk, the internet is something called the net. There's the old net and the new net, by the way, which there's a lot going on with that.
Important.
But if you jack into the net as a netrunner, you are basically navigating cyberspace with your brain. There's custom hardware loaded with software programs selected ahead of time for specific tasks, evasion, decryption, detection, and you can engage in cyber combat. Now, this is tracked. So regular combat is tracked in 3-second rounds. An individual round of combat in net running is 1 second, which I thought was funny. It was a representation of the 80s view of computer networks, the visualization of it, like a dangerous open frontier where autonomous programs are battling for dominance and hackers move through a physical representation of electronic or data architecture.
Well, you want to get 80s. A cyber deck is literally a modem. Like,
I mean, it's very Tron, right? It's very Tron-esque. Yeah, Ricky Chapman says Kennedys were a gang of people that made themselves look like JFK.
Yep.
Makes sense. Of course, the actual internet evolved to look nothing at all like what we thought it might look like, certainly. And the Cyberpunk was one of the few games that actually adapted to this. And by the time you get to Cyberpunk Red, the setting has essentially abandoned the old net for a new net, which there's a lot of reasons why that is true. But it also helps them redesign their hacking mechanics to be more in tune with how we understand computers, hacking, electronics, and internet connections today.
With a Netwatch on the patrol.
Yes, Netwatch.
We have Netwatch, right?
I mean, we should, but we don't. We definitely don't. There was a uniquely thematic mechanic that eventually was adopted by Shadowrun, actually, which is the idea of humanity. That cyberware replaces your humanity and lowers that stat over time, and it can create this thing called cyber psychosis, where your character feels no longer human to the point where they can no longer empathize with other people, and they can become what are called cyber psychos, or extremely chromed up, which is a term for someone with a lot of cyberware, killers and or monsters. Again, this is very heavily influenced by things like AD Police and Bubblegum Crisis, where feelings of being disconnected from humanity by replacing your meat with mechanics and electronics. That's how it worked.
Yeah, like your empathy gets too low, you're no longer a person, right?
And Cyberpunk was the first one to really embrace that. It was saying that the pursuit of technological augmentation erodes what makes us human in the first place. Yeah, Aeromob points out that Vampire the Masquerade would, of course, come up with humanity as a stat later on. Cyberpunk got there first. They had the name first, but he says Vampire the Masquerade looking from the corner with the glare. Yeah, the humanity is probably more famous from the Vampire the Masquerade standpoint. Which actually is a good point to bring. This is a good time to bring out. Aside from Dungeons and Dragons, there have been only a few role-playing games that have made it to the level of success as having a major video game made. Vampire the Masquerade is also one of those, which you got Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines several years ago.
Yeah, there was a Bloodlines 2 recently, which was a different kind of project, I think.
Yeah, there's some really great videos on YouTube if you're curious, but that game is the creators did not want to call it Bloodlines 2 because it was definitely not living up to that legacy.
No. I will say, though, the way that humanity is deployed VTM, we've talked about that a bit, right? The way that it feels, the way that the game loop operates relating to that, and how it actually conveys to you as the player. I think that empathy and humanity in Cyberpunk comes through a little more strongly somehow, almost.
Cyberpunk was also one that leaned into the idea of rockers and music being a very pop cultural thing, and what player characters could be rockers from the very beginning. And they created, of course, a character called Johnny Silverhand, whose lyrics were on the cover of the boxed set for a song called Chippin' In. And it was a great way to kind of give you an idea of what the game was actually about, which is really cool. Of course, Johnny Silverhand would become central to the game's mythology, and then later on played by Keanu Reeves in the game, Cyberpunk 2077, the breathtaking Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, there was a real interest in the media in general, like literally the class media, right? Who is going to be important in the new season of 2077. But you have like artists and people who are interested in reporting on events, and you've got net runners going behind the back doors of the internet to find out the truth and so on. There's an interesting angle here.
Cyberpunk 2020 was released in 1990 as a box set. This is the first time we, of course, jumped the timeline ahead from 2013 to 2020, the far off future of 6 years ago. Oh, sorry. Kinbo says, do you recommend Cyberpunk Edgerunners? I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Oh yeah. No, it's good.
Yeah, it's a very good anime, and it will make you kind of want to play the game. It's what made me want to play the Cyberpunk 2077 game.
It was surely anime of the year it came out.
Right. Of course, Johnny Silverhand / Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves himself is a Cyberpunk icon. He was Johnny Mnemonic in the 90s. And Neo in the Matrix, both of which are very Cyberpunk games. Or movies, I should say. Cyberpunk films. All right, so we got the second edition gives us 2020, but then we do run into a couple of stumbling blocks. Third edition Shadowrunner, third edition Cyberpunk, also called V3. I have interviewed Pondsmith about this, Maximum Mike himself. And, he likes to say, he attributes his success to taking a lot of risks and trying things out that paid off most of the time, but every so often you take a risk, you try something out, it doesn't pay off or work out real well. And for Cyberpunk V3, are you familiar with this at all, Vera? Have you seen any of these books?
I've looked at them. I've read through a lot of different Cyberpunk books, just like, ooh, cool. It's a game I want to play.
Okay, so V3 though had issues that caused people to pick it up, take a couple of looks inside, and then sort of put it down and walk away. Now, these were actually production issues rather than anything having to do with the writing or game design. I can tell you, I have picked up these books and held them. They have kind of a magazine quality, like a really glossy feel to the pages. It felt very kind of high quality in a weird, cheap way. I'm not sure how to say that. I know. But the most off-putting thing for Cyberpunk V3 is that instead of doing artwork, all of the images, all the visuals inside the book are actually photos that have been altered with, filters and whatnot, but they're photos of action figures that are dressed up as Cyberpunk characters.
It's for realism.
I mean, I'll be honest, it turned me off like instantly. I took one look at that, I was like, oh my God, no. And I put it down and walked away. There are only two things that Cyberpunk has ever made in its game line that are considered non-canonical, and one of them is Cyberpunk V3. So apparently it was just so unpopular. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to get Pondsmith on the show to tell us exactly what happened, why it was decided to make it a non-canonical. But I never saw anybody playing it. Let's put it that way. Of course, the setting for Cyberpunk is Night City, which is a it's a pretty fully realized urban ecosystem. That's probably the best way to put it. It's got neighborhoods, it's got gangs, it's got corporate offices, safe houses, sewer systems, fixers, a huge list of NPCs. It's got enough specificity and depth to support multi-year campaigns, and it has been described as one of the most compelling fictional settings in RPG history.
Yeah, there's a lot of development there, and like the life paths get you hooked into where you belong in the ecosystem. There's strong narrative drives to improve your own station, to support the people who've looked out for you. It just works. It works. And it's easy to envision too. Like one advantage that a game like this has is that a lot of us have lived or been to cities. So,
well, Night City is very special though because it's got a lot of pretty sinister history behind it in the game and lore. And there's a great fan theory I love. I'm just gonna bring this up here because it's such a cool idea. The idea that a lot of fans have in their mind is that the Night City was basically designed to fail, and that it itself, the city, is the true antagonist of the setting because it's a privately funded, corporate-dominated metropolis that's deliberately structured to generate insecurity and dependence and consumption and violence.
I like that idea. I think that Night City is meant to be a character, and it is certainly an antagonist, if anything else. Because the idea is that no one really can be happy if they try to climb the ladder in Night City and do well there. Like, it sort of is the big bad. Like, it eats everything, and you either become part of the architecture that makes it a horrible place, or you die.
And this is a theme that does carry over into the video game, Cyberpunk 2077. There are numerous characters, Judy being one of the most iconic, who's like, I don't want to live here anymore. This place is fucking killing us all. We have to
Which
get
is the
out.
right idea. It's not good there.
We have to get out, yeah. So it's a great theory. I love that one a lot. The Cyberpunk has had a number of numerous interesting source books, including the Night City source book itself. And there were Chromebooks, which were where you found all your cyberware. There was a book called Listen Up, You Primitive Screwheads, published in 1994, which is obviously related to the amazing Bruce Campbell film, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead Army of Darkness. And it is a game master's guide that basically supplemented all the Friday Night Firefight combat rules and addressed a whole bunch of problematic rules interactions. But the writing, the voice of the book is extremely aggressive and driven by the personality of the author. It's just the writing assumes the reader has experience with the game and addresses the reader directly, often combatively, which I think is great. Listen Up, You Primitive Screwheads is a book that yells at you, the reader, to be like, hey, check, you need to figure this out. I love it.
I want more source books to insult me.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want them to insult me, but I like the audacity of it. I admire the boldness of writing a book that is just grabbing the reader by the freaking collar and saying, you, listen up. There was books on the net. Raish Bartmoss's Guide to the Net. Raish Bartmoss is a very legendary net runner in the setting. There were geographic source books on the different areas of the world, corporate reports on the different mega corporations. There were adventure books for a duology called Firestorm, which it was basically the opening moves of the Fourth Corporate War between Arasaka and Militech. And my personal favorite book that they ever produced was how do we put this? It's like a side project or it's an alternate. It's technically an alternate timeline. It's a book called Cyber Generation. It came out in 1993. Okay, so I was like 1 year out of high school when this book came around. And it's amazing because in Cyber Generation, it tells you that a nanotech virus, an epidemic, struck the world. and anybody that it infected that was over 20 years old died, and the ones that remained alive managed to survive the nanoplague were all the youth of the world. So you have teenagers that have effectively inherited supernatural abilities, or more superhuman, not supernatural, from the nanoplague that has altered their bodies in different ways. It was basically spun off into its own product line, but it's fascinating because this was an attempt to put the punk back into Cyberpunk. The idea with Cyber Generation is that edge runners in Cyberpunk 2020 had gotten to the point where they were just these jet-setting mercenaries who were always rubbing elbows with, the rock stars or corporate bigwigs, and they wanted to bring the action back down into the streets, and they wanted to really focus on the idea of these youth gangs, or yo gangs as they were called. Yeah. Cyber Generation is one of the white whales. I think we have an episode on white whales. It's one of those games I've always wanted to play and never have. It's just so cool.
Well, nothing's quite punk like the entire power structure of the world evaporating overnight. It's like Lord of the Flies, right?
I mean, it certainly could be. I would love to do a whole show on Cyber Generation, so I don't want to get too crazy into it, but it's a super fun source book that gives you an alternate way to play Cyberpunk. And it is, by the way, it is the second of the two products that is considered non-canonical. That Cyber Generation never actually happened in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It didn't happen, but would have been cool. So the world of Cyberpunk 2020 is governed by 4 explicit tenets. These are actually written into the rulebook itself. Do you know what these are, Vera?
Not off the top of my head.
So the first one is style over substance, rule of cool. I love that one. And to sort of Fight Club that one, the second rule is attitude is everything.
I live by these rules already, so.
The third rule is always take it to the edge. Edge is capitalized because edge is a term in Cyberpunk meaning the fringe of society, the outside of the normal, if you will. And then the last tenet is break the rules. Which is it. I think you could find all 4 of those in Cyberpunk 2077, which is really great. But these were not just flavor; they were actually mechanical principles. The fashion, the fashion and appearance of your character, the attitude influences your social interactions. It actually matters for your reputation. Characters were defined as much by their aesthetic choices as by their stats, which I thought was really, really cool. Basically, the game embeds a specific set of cultural politics into it, where the protagonists are the edge runners. They're the marginal operators, the gig economy. Before there was a gig economy. They survive on the fringes of society dominated by corporate power. Timely, I would argue. And the very structure of the game positioned the players as rebels against the system rather than enforcers of it. This is one of the key aspects of Cyberpunk. The punk part is you have to be essentially rebelling against the system instead of like trying to keep the status quo, which is one of the reasons why I like to talk about Ghost in the Shell is not actually Cyberpunk. It's very cyber. It's not very punk.
I still want to debate this. Like I think you're right when it comes to standalone complex. I think that explicitly their sort of military public defense association is established in like the manga at least and in the new anime as well as a sort of necessary evil that they're not really attached to, and the dangers of that are explored, but it's an attempt to like work within structure without being part of it, and how that fails and succeeds. Like it treats that as the punk element, I think. Like it's not as punk, but it's not like propaganda.
Here we go. Godzilla Rex. Woo, more anime beards. We do digress.
Gitz is pretty good.
We do digress into anime from time to time. Both Vera and I are big anime fans. So I would say for Ghost in the Shell specifically, Shiro's philosophy is where he likes to explore the tropes and the storylines and the any rebellion is more internal, I think, in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, but Shiro also seems to think that like government is meaningless, kind of. So associating with it doesn't change you.
Yeah, I don't know about. I mean, I feel like he gets lost in a lot of the higher concept stuff, but
And some lower concept stuff.
I mean, he's
I'm
got
very.
the man has got fetishes, and he doesn't mind telling people about them.
I'm excited to see how they adapt a couple of specific scenes coming up.
Yes, same.
They teased the boat.
Oh my god, the boat.
The boat's gonna be in the anime, so we'll see how that goes.
Holy shit. All right, that's gonna be fun. So in Shadowrun, you got 9 roles. These are not classes, these are just archetypes. But they do have unique special abilities that no other role can access, so they're kind of like classes. This is very similar to how I would structure, or how I structured the roles in Rogue Trader. With each of those roles had a specific mechanic that no other role had. Do you know what the 9 are? Can you guess?
In Rogue Trader?
No, sorry, Cyberpunk. Sorry, the 9 roles in Cyberpunk.
Or the first ones. Okay, so like in 2013, because they expanded this list later. There were like more possible roles. There was media. There's solo. There's I think fixer. There's netrunner. There's rocker. There's nomad. Is nomad one of the OG ones? Techie.
Yep, you're doing good. You're 7 out of 9.
Medtech, is Medtech a thing yet?
Medtech is not. No.
Solo. Did I say solo yet?
Yeah, you're missing corpo and cop.
Yeah. Okay.
What's really interesting is that one of the core roles was that of a rocker, and one of the core roles was one of the media. So the idea of investigative journalists and underground rockers being they're essential to the setting's power dynamics, as essential as soldiers or hackers. That's pretty rad. I love that. It's an unusual game design choice.
But it says a lot about like where you fit in. Like in Rogue Trader, like your role on the ship determines a lot about how you interact with the world, right? Like if you're the Rogue Trader, it's a very different vibe.
Yeah. Are rockers just musicians? Well, kind of. They are, I would say they're cultural agitators. It's probably the best way to put it. They do this through music. They do it through performance. They do it through creating cults of personality. How would you help me out here, Vera? How would you define it?
I would define them as like an attempt to encapsulate the vibe of the 27 Club mechanically. Like they're not meant to live to see 30. They're meant to stand against authority until they get smushed. They're meant to be on drugs. They're meant to be passionate and angry and charming, and like the epitome of this is Johnny Silverhand, right?
Indeed. Godzilla Rex asks, I can be Cyberpunk Weird Al?
Yeah, Weird Al's a rocker, right?
I mean, it could be a cultural agitator. I think I would argue he is. Artel Sorian, the company that publishes Cyberpunk, they were one of the first publishers to fully embrace desktop publishing technology. Now, that sounds like a no-brainer. Like, of course you would use desktop publishing technology. But this was back in the late 80s when most of the time you were using paste-up boards for your layout. And famously or infamously, Palladium, the Rift's publisher, only switched to desktop publishing after the year 2002, I think. 2003. Yes, they stuck with the pasteboard for a very long time. Anyway, so early adoption of technology, I think, was a way of Pondsmith sort of putting his money where his mouth is and saying, "Listen, I'm going to write." He's kind of a version of an RPG futurist, and he was like, "I'm going to write stuff about the future and about how technology is adapting. I should really experience that for myself." then of course, so the world of Cyberpunk started to expand. In '96, Wizards of the Coast licensed it and released a card game called Netrunner. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, were there a few of these?
What do you mean?
A few attempts at a Netrunner card game.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, in 2012, Fantasy Flight Games made a version of it for their Android setting. I had just left Fantasy Flight when they did this, I think. But Netrunner is a very fun little card game. And of course, it was designed by Richard Garfield, the creator of Magic the Gathering.
Hey, very cool. And we were talking about like nested systems for hacking during Shadowrun the other day. In Cyberpunk, you actually have to play a game of Netrunner when you start hacking. It's really interesting. You like get your little decks out and no. It could feel like that though.
I mean, it would be cool. And it has been called one of the best collectible card games ever made. Netrunners is very, very popular. Mornington Crescent says it's a very cool asymmetrical game. Kinbo 9 Game is asking, what is it? I mean, it's a card game about hacking computers. I don't know what else I could really say about that. We're not really card game people, are we, Vera?
Not too deeply. I know a little bit about it. Like your Corpo deck and your Netrunner deck are very different. Like they play in different ways. They each have specific goals and different abilities. They're trying to play out totally asymmetrical objectives before the other completes theirs. It is unlike a game like Magic the Gathering, where theoretically you can run any card you want because you have specific sets for what role you are, which is neat.
There's in the Android version of Netrunner, there's even a card featuring Mike Pondsmith as a character called Omni Kismet, which is an anagram of his name. Omni Kismet PhD, excuse me, because you get all the letters.
Also, you may think I was joking about the playing it during a session thing. Not the case. There was a supplement for this. Thanks, Onion. Wow, cool. You flatter me.
Chad is out here telling Vera she is quite a hottie.
Awesome. Cool.
So
anyway,
Cyberpunk. I saw that.
I'm good.
I love it.
So this was a short-lived idea, was to like use the card game mid RPG, but for some reason people didn't take to that too well. So.
There were other spin-offs and things from Cyberpunk. Atlas Games and DreamPod 9 both published third-party material for it, and West End Games, the creators of Star Wars D6, which we have an episode on Star Wars role-playing game, go check that out. They made a crossover adventure called Alice Through the Mirror Shades in 1989, which was compatible with both Cyberpunk and Paranoia, which I thought was fun. And there was a short-lived collectible card game, so there's two versions of Netrunner and a just straight-up Cyberpunk card game. So there's reasons why you might be confused about all the different card games for Cyberpunk. That one came out in 2003, but very few people played it. Kind of a fun thing.
Also, I will say, I'm not a card game person. I'll play like real card games. I do frequently get legend rank at Hearthstone, though. That's my one expertise.
What is it?
I get the highest rank at Hearthstone a lot.
Hearthstone,
game, the digital one. It's not a real game. It's just a little stim toy, but
I could play Caravan and Fallout New Vegas. Does that count?
That
or
counts.
Pazak.
I play Pazak. I play poker. I play blackjack.
Yes, a lot of blackjack in Fallout New Vegas.
Not for money though. All the other games I listed are gambling games.
Yeah, Mornington Crescent points out that in the 90s, many games had card games. Many role-playing games did, yes. That is a true fact. Changeling the Dreaming had one. Highlander had one. I mean, just like there were so many. So many. Because people were chasing all that Magic the Gathering money, and it was making shitloads of money.
What if you played an entire game of Commander in the middle of your RPG session?
You know, believe it or not, there are subsystems in Savage Worlds that are not unlike little card game moments. So
Oh yeah.
Torque Eternity also has a lot of card mechanics that are really great in a role-playing game. I am personally a fan of using cards in a role-playing game in various ways. And famously, the first edition of Wrath of Glory had a card deck that was part of the design. And that was intentional because I liked it. I liked the way it worked.
It's a lot of fun. This happens in Fabula Ultima too. There's a whole class that wants you to draw and rearrange stuff, but the one problem with that is it makes digital play a little harder. But that shouldn't be like the conceit of design, I don't think, is that it'll be a little rougher to run asymmetrically. So
here's one of the things I think is one of the super fun little facts about Cyberpunk as a role-playing game. Mike Pondsmith is in his own game. He created an alter ego called Maximum Mike. And he appears as a voice that breaks the fourth wall, addresses readers directly, comments on the setting. I mean, it's a good way to explain some of his rules decisions. But it also offers like editorial asides. And this self-insertion is very unique in the RPG design space. Most of the time when you're offering game master advice or talking about the game on a meta level, you're the authoritative voice of God. You're not really an individual person. But Mike Pondsmith gave his books a distinct personality, which was sometimes combative and sometimes very knowing and deeply invested in the ethos of street level survival. People either loved it or hated it. I personally liked it a lot. But it definitively established Pondsmith's authorial presence in the product line in a way that it hadn't really been seen before.
I'm in favor of breaking the fourth wall. Strong statement.
In Cyberpunk 2077, you can find Mike Pondsmith voicing two different characters. Maximum Mike is in the game. He's the DJ of Moro Rock Radio. And I think they originally wanted him to play Dexter Deshawn, but he ended up playing a different character instead. Although Maximum Mike as Dexter Deshawn would have been amazing. Mike Pondsmith has a very distinctive voice. If you hear it, you can't not miss it. He also voiced a character in Mech Commander as well.
Oh yeah. I'll know that he's a very cool guy. The way that he does pull off the leather trench coat
and the shades.
Yeah.
He's also one of the very few black role-playing game designers in the industry. Almost certainly the most prominent one for sure. Which I've always really admired that. So Cyberpunk is ranked 10th amongst the most popular role-playing games of all time, which is pretty cool. And part of that is because it was really, really big overseas. It was very big in Europe. In 97, Cyberpunk 2020 was published in Polish by a group called the Copernicus Corporation. Basically, this was a country emerging from the shadow of communism, and all of the teenagers and college students were looking for something to do, and they had communism, and then they had cyberpunk. And this influenced a pair of gentlemen who would go on to found a game studio called CD Projekt Red, and then make the Witcher series. They went to Pondsmith. Pondsmith didn't go to them, which I think is great. And they went to Pondsmith because they liked Cyberpunk so much that they wanted to make it into one of their games. That's amazing. That's the level of cool that I would love to reach someday. As somebody comes to me and says, "Your game was so influential, I have to make it into a different medium."
What only took them like 10 years to do, right?
You get a comment, someone saying your Blue Sky link will not open, so.
I did not set it on the video. I do have a Blue Sky.
Well, send it to me on Discord, and I could probably change it in the description of the video.
Yeah, all right. I can do that. I can give you like my various socials and things.
So yeah, it's Stu Horvath, who's an RPG historian. He wrote a book called Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground back in 2023, so 3 years ago. And he said that the game of Cyberpunk, the role-playing game, became a significant part of the language of urban science fiction and fantasy. It paved the way for things like Nightlife and Vampire the Masquerade, Unknown Armies, and many more. I still think that Shadowrun came first, but there is a massive influence on Shadowrun. No, I'm wrong. Shadowrun was 89, so Cyberpunk was first. I'm wrong. Huh. Okay.
Cyberpunk's definitely the most influential. We call the genre cyberpunk, right? Like,
yeah, well, that name was prior to the video game. Like the video game,
yeah, but it seized it, grabbed it.
The RPG did not coin that phrase, but it definitely capitalized on it. You're right about that. So Shadowrun comes along in 89, which combines cyberpunk, the genre, with Tolkien-esque fantasy and magic. Again, we have a whole episode on that, so go watch it. There were just huge comparisons between these two games. I think it was inevitable, and it persisted for decades. Cyberpunk 2020 is consistently more gritty, more mechanically direct, more true to the genre of cyberpunk, while Shadowrun, and this is part of the reason why it was more popular, is more accessible and more structurally forgiving as a game. And it was also, not for nothing, easy to get people into it from D&D because, it had elves and dwarves.
Yeah, 2020 was a little bit uglier in some ways. Instead of like elves, it had prostitutes. Con men. Both actual classes you can play in 2020.
Right.
Those are roles, yeah.
So, one of the other things about I forgot to mention this about 3.0, the third edition. This was 2005 when this came out. Difficult year for me, by the way. That's one of the reasons why I remember it. But first of all, they did fusion instead of interlock, and it had the action figure collection presented as character illustrations, which was almost universally thought of as a really bad idea. Cyberpunk Red comes along and then just kind of removes all of the third edition stuff, which is fine. But Cyberpunk 2020 predicted a lot of things as a role-playing game. Very timely in today's world, because it predicted the dominance of corporations, and in their universe, mega corporations, over democratic institutions. It predicted the extreme economic stratification between an urban underclass and privileged elites. It predicted widespread body modification for functional and aesthetic purposes. It predicted network-based information warfare and data espionage and misinformation. It predicted the collapse of traditional national governments in favor of corporate governance zones. And it predicted portable personal technology as a social and economic stratification mechanism. And again, behavioral psychology as a background, I think, is where a lot of this we get coming from. And I just love that.
Well, similarly, it kind of predicted the emergence of independent creators as a stabilizing force when the scene of other art is entirely corporate owned and produced by committee and for mass appeal. Like, that's the rocker, it's the media, etc.
Also, AI generating art.
Yeah.
Some things did not materialize that were forecast, like flying cars.
We kind of have those. They're just not practical yet.
And the way that cyberpunk was, of course, cyberspace, was visualized. None of those things have come true yet, per se. Although you're right,
you had like a 3D kind of experience where you as the person are kind of in a digital space, moving around as if it's like an actual world you can inhabit, and you kind of can get up and walk around and do stuff there, right? Like, that didn't happen yet. We don't have that.
Look at this. We got actual virtual beings that we're conversing with right now.
Maybe they were kind of close.
They were,
you're onto something.
They're not entirely off base. I think that's accurate. Very accurate. Let's see here. So we talked about a couple of the really important NPCs. We talked about Johnny Silverhand, but there's many, many more characters that are a big part of the setting of Cyberpunk. There's Alt Cunningham, the legendary netrunner and creator of the Soul Killer program. which is a huge part of the Cyberpunk 2077 game. The short version is that Soul Killer as a program basically creates a digital consciousness of whoever gets hit by it, but also kills the person, which raises a lot of questions over whether that person is actually dead and that the digital consciousness is separate or a different being altogether. But anyway, that's one of the things she did. There's Rogue Amendiares, who's the top fixer in the elite fixer, I would say, in Cyberpunk 2077. Morgan Blackhand, who is a legendary operative who does not show up in the video game, interestingly enough. Adam Smasher, who's Arasaka's full conversion cyborg enforcer. And if you watch Edge Runners Season 1, you're going to get to know who he is. There's Saburo Arasaka, who's the founder and head of the Arasaka Corporation, and his whole family, which there's quite a few people in the Arasaka family that are important. And Raish Bartmas, who's the revolutionary netrunner, brilliant anarchic netrunner. Raish is, in a lot of ways, kind of a role model. Like I kind of feel like he's my spirit animal in some ways, because this dude was all about breaking down barriers and trying to reset society in a lot of ways. Then there's, of course, Richard Knight, who's the visionary founder of Night City. His assassination helped leave the city open to gang influence and criminal power, and above all, corporate competition and influence over the city in general.
Wow, what a visionary.
I mean,
a modern day Walt Disney.
I mean, there's a lot of it. You can look at Richard Knight a lot of interesting ways. So that's really fun.
It's a cool setting.
These NPCs are very larger than life. They are big movers and shakers. Now, Shadowrun has its own cast, but the Cyberpunk cast is, I think, well, obviously they feature in the video game, so they're a lot more in your face and relatable in some ways, I guess, than Shadowrun's cast, because you very rarely run into Shadowrun's cast like in the person. Most of the time, they're very much behind the scenes.
Yeah, like part of what works so well about the cast of Cyberpunk is they live with you. Like they're like over there. You want to go visit that guy, you'll need to like book an appointment maybe, but the dragon from Berlin is a little harder to reach, right?
Yeah. Well, precisely, yeah. Lofweir, Seder Krupp, yeah. He's not going to take your phone call.
But like a lot of the Cyberpunk characters are going to be in the same boat as you. They're like struggling with the same things, or they're just so well known. There's like plenty of reason to encounter them in some way. There's a lot of accessibility there. Everything feels connected in a way that's less like you're reading the annals of this cool setting that are not like directly related. It's less a background info and more supporting cast.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's localized.
Yeah, well, both Shadowrun and Cyberpunk try to focus on an individual city, but Shadowrun got very popular overseas to the point where they created its own like Berlin German version, and like those people ended up creating FanPro and buying Shadowrun, which we talked about in the Shadowrun episode. So yeah, it became more global over time for Shadowrun. I think Cyberpunk remained far more local. And Ricky Chapman comes in with a super chat. By the way, if anyone wants to get into the tabletop role-playing game, we recommend the adventure The Jacket. It's an adventure that connects Edge Runner in 2077. Oh, I know whose jacket this is.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a time. We splattered on a skyscraper at 300 miles per hour. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Thank you, Ricky Chapman. That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Love hearing about his stuff. Well, I've been going crazy for a while talking about Cyberpunk. Is there stuff you'd like to cover about Cyberpunk, Vera?
I want to talk about what Atom Smasher is meant for, like what Atom Smasher's deployment is for, and what that means for game design, because I find this fascinating.
All right, go for it.
So Atom Smasher as an NPC, as a big scary enforcer, is meant to do one thing, and that is TPK. He is literally designed to end your campaign. In fact, the rules for Atom Smasher are that he wins. That's the way that he comes in. He comes in when your party is at their zenith, when it's like the right time to call everybody, and he kills them, and they're dead then. And that, as like a conceit, is part of what makes it punk to me. That you literally can't win.
Well, in the game Cyberpunk 2077, you absolutely can. So
you're not supposed to. That's not the spirit of the thing.
I don't know. I feel like it's earned in that specific setup, but it's I think you would probably be clear to say that Atom Smasher is the end game boss of Cyberpunk. He is the thing you measure yourself against. Are we good enough to beat Atom Smasher?
But he is intended to be a narrative device. He's sort of meant to be this impossible force that represents the crushing weight that you're operating beneath. He is the sword of Damocles. Like, he is the physical representation of the idea that no matter what you do, you can't really win if you're trying to play in Night City. Like, he's the house that always wins.
And that is one of the core tenets of Cyberpunk as a genre, and also Cyberpunk 2020 as a game, is that you're kind of existing in the liminal space between the corporations and the government and everyone else, and you live in the little cracks in between those.
Yeah, because it's not like late stage capitalism; it's like New Game Plus for capitalism. It's far post game. Like,
somebody clip that. New Game Plus for capitalism is Cyberpunk.
It's already over though. It's won. You're operating in the shadow as long as you can get away with it, and when you can't, you die. You get smashed by the Smasher, and then you're done. So.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to get a little deeper into Cyber Generation and why I love it so much as a spin-off.
Yeah.
So this is a radical alternative future for Cyberpunk. It is a game not about hardened adult edge runners, but more about teenagers and sometimes literal children inheriting a corporatized America and gaining nanotech-driven abilities that make them both targets and revolutionaries. It was originally released in 93. It was set in 2027, the far-off future of 2027.
wait, no, that one works, actually. Okay, we'll come back to that in like a few decades.
Which, at the time of this broadcast, it is July 13th, 2026. So we're almost there. It's less than 6 months away, according to this. The back cover text is great. The back cover text for Cyber Generation says, "My parents became cyberpunks and all they left me was the dark future." The old edge runners in Cyberpunk, the old Cyberpunk edge runners, all those guys we named, they're all basically retired at this point. The cast the cast of the big NPCs are largely gone. And so you are playing these teenagers, sometimes, again, literal children, although I wouldn't recommend it. And you are basically enjoying ordinary youth life in Night City, but you have to navigate this with the boon of the nano plague enhancements, but also the fact that there are people hunting you, corporate agents, security forces, society that sees you as dangerous or disposable. There is a transhumanist element to it that also, of course, links in with that coming of age story that I really love. And it emerges in a period where RPGs were experimenting with more anime influenced and youth centered premises. And a lot of people, the artwork for Cyber Generation is explicitly more anime than your typical illustrations for role-playing games at the time. The whole thing is based around this thing called the Carbon Plague, which was a nanotech-based contagion. And if you're less than 20 years old and you get this contagion, you go through what's called cyber revolution. It is you get with these extraordinary capabilities rooted in internal nanotech rather than some sort of cyberware replacing your body. So your characters, who are these young people, they are no longer just vulnerable things to be exploited. They are the potential agents of change. And the carbon plague also, of course, gives the authorities a pretext to identify and contain, exploit, and or eliminate the cyber generation.
Yeah, like part of what's interesting about this as a conceit is it flips the existing concept in Cyberpunk, which is that there's this overclass that really has already won, and you're operating under that, right? Because they're dead. It creates this. Can I talk communist theory for a second?
Oh yeah, please go right ahead.
So there's this idea called the withering, right? And the withering is the structure through which the architecture that enabled capitalism to come to power just sort of dissolves in the absence of the people that are supposed to operate it.
Mm-hmm.
But for that to like even be possible, you would need a lot of people to disappear, which is part of why Lenin and his friends were controversial. Because but this sort of explores who occupies that structure, who might try and see it dissolved, who might try and come into that position of power that's been vacated, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting subject because it is sort of the only way to subvert the power dynamic of the setting is to just have everyone disappear.
I like how it turns adolescence into a metaphor, because your body is changing, but it's also your cyber revolution. It's the adults are misunderstanding you, but it's also because they're not part of your genome anymore, really.
Yep.
It gives institutions are trying to exert control over you, but your peers are becoming your chosen family. That's the thing I like about cyber generation. It is about emerging as a person in a lot of ways, in a world that doesn't really want you to do that.
Yeah, coming of age is a traditional arc. Like, this is like sort of the YA novel thing, where like this generation of youths are gaining special powers. They're anamorphing. They're doing it.
The Animorphs. Yeah, this is not that distinct from that. You're right. There was this is part of that time period.
Also, Vera, is that your real voice? Yes, Ross uses a voice changer though.
Snark. The principal, as I said earlier, the principal social unit of cyber generation is what's called a yo gang, which is short for youth gang. It is a peer network. It is your survival community. The material presents yo gangs with they are not unlike the gangs that were in the Warriors.
Yeah.
There's like the Eco Raiders, the Mega Violence, the Go Gangers, the Street Fighters. Yo gangs give you a look, a street culture, some social expectations, but they also give you some skills and some allies and a way to resist the adult world. I admire them trying to build this sort of Lost Boys-esque group that you can belong to. Yeah, Ricardo Andre points out identity is something many people struggle with. Who am I? Especially when your adolescence was abnormal in some way, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that idea of finding like meaning in a group is real. There's some truth to that. Like you got like emo kids, you've got like jocks and whatnot. You got the furry subculture. All of this stuff shows up. You got like a Vampire the Masquerade enjoyers, perhaps. I will note that Mike Pondsmith's mother, I believe, was a psychologist.
Well, that would explain why he had an interest in behavioral psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go on forever about cyber generation. Like I said, we could do a whole show about it. It's just really, really cool. But it was obviously not where the future of cyberpunk as a setting was going to go. So it was abandoned in favor of what became Cyberpunk Red, which was, of course, designed by Pondsmith's own son, which I think is really cool. He's turned role-playing game design into a family business, which is pretty awesome. Now, what do you think about cyberpsychosis, Vera?
I love it. I think it's cool.
All right. But why? Why do you love it? What is it about it that makes it interesting to you?
I think the idea that the setting of Cyberpunk gives you both the opportunity and the motivation to alter your body to task creates a interesting dynamic where you need to chrome up to be successful doing the dangerous things you do, but that doing so is openly detrimental to your health. It's like, it's almost like a drug in and of itself, right? Like it's like performance enhancement at the cost of you're not quite sure yet. There's a really cool tension there where to live up to the needs that you and your friends have, you need to detach yourself from them and become something more and less than human. I think it is narratively compelling. I think that it is aesthetically very cool. I think it makes sense that when you have mantis arms and are ripping apart various gangers, you're going to naturally feel a little detached from your humanity, the person you were as an 8-year-old. I think that the setting as a whole is very interested in this lack of humanity. Like the way that you're educated is through this program that stacks into your neck. Like you're already detached from the normal human experience that we've had in our realm from the get-go, right? And it only enhances that. It makes it worse and worse and worse. And then you go nuts.
So there is the literal view of cyberpsychosis where, too many cybernetic implants equals madness. But I think Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, did a really good job of making you question that narrative, because I think that the presentation of Cyberpunk's world and the Chrome within it is that the Chrome can both enhance you, like it can make you better at all the things you want to be better at, but it can also isolate you. It can also make it to where, if you're a net runner, it can make it to where you're always in the net and you're not really engaging with humanity. If you're a solo and you're, more metal than meat, you're going to be spending time with cyberdocs rather than, doctors that work on actual people. You're going to be deep into the professional world because you have to be, because your body is now your tool.
The Ripper Doc is one of the best elements of this whole scene to me, because the crucible you have to go through to become this more than human, less than human, built to purpose thing is grueling, is disgusting, and is like back alley. You're going through, let's say, questionably legitimate means to transform yourself.
No, Cyberpunk the video game makes that very clear, because the first Ripper Doc you meet is literally in a back alley that you can only get to through a weird entrance.
Well, it gets worse from there. Like, that guy is pretty okay, it turns out.
Right, yeah, compared to the Scavs, for example. Yeah, he's very okay.
Like, that's like a good deal. Like, he's chill. He likes boxing. Sure, I like sports. Why not? How you doing, bro? It gets so much worse.
So, I don't want to dwell too long on cyberpsychosis, but I feel like there's some pretty interesting stuff to talk about with that, because if you are doing dangerous levels of body modification, that is a sign that you have been pushed pretty far. I think you probably don't do it for fun.
Well, I think it like encapsulates something important about the setting, right? Because when you're a cyber psycho, you have replaced a lot of your physicality with corporate products, right? And generally, the kind of person who gets chromed up all the way is the kind of person who is doing very specific jobs with very expensive equipment. Like you, in this world defined by like post-capitalism, you are yourself becoming an amalgam of products and are becoming a thing built to function, to succeed in your role in the machine as a machine yourself. And I think it makes sense that leads to mental strain.
and when you hit your breaking point, I think this is the thing I think is really good how Cyberpunk presents it, especially in the video game. You hit that breaking point, you do something that is outside of the normal social structures, or you do something violent, and the world uses cyberpsychosis as a label to hide all the trauma and the poverty and abuse and corporate violence that took you to this point. And they're like, oh, it's just cyberpsychosis. He just had too many implants.
There's a precedent for function in this, which is very cool. And this is, I believe, going to be a part of the focus of the next season of Edge Runners, the follow-up series, because the main guy, the big fella, who I believe is the leader of the group de facto, is a guy who seems to have been experiencing symptoms of cyberpsychosis for a long time. So you can ride that out. You can experience this and live with it, but you're carrying trauma. It's like CTP, it's CPTSD, it's cyber PTSD, right? Like heavy stuff.
Can be. I like I said, I like the fact that it can be a real thing, but it can also just be an excuse or pretext for being dismissed or marginalized in the world of Cyberpunk. And Ricky Chapman, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, Ricky, thank you so much for the super chat. Fun fact, before Adam Smasher went full Borg, he sounded exactly like Elvis. Also, memory service with Michiko Sanderson, aka Michiko Arasaka, on her 18th birthday. Wow. something Smasher, jokes, humor, etc.
Well, when he's introduced in Cyberpunk 2077, he says some very disturbing lines. So
yeah. I recall he like has an Elvis outfit too. Like I think that's like a deliberate affect that he's done. There's like something about this.
That's interesting.
Classy guy.
Yeah.
Well, like his design is very cool. Like the one part of him that's visibly human is like the skin of his upper face. Which is, of course, deliberate and like kind of meaningless. But there's this grotesque nature to it. Like he wants you to know that he was people.
See, I think to my mind, that maps onto another piece of 80s anime. 80 Police was a spinoff of Bubblegum Crisis, and there was an episode in that called The Man Who Bites His Tongue. And in that particular episode, I may have mentioned it before when we talk about Cyberpunk, but The Man Who Bites His Tongue is about a cop it's essentially RoboCop. Like it's a cop who gets gunned down and he gets rebuilt as a robot. But his brainstem, his brain, and like his tongue are the only parts of his body that still remain. So he's constantly biting his tongue just to feel something, anything, and slowly going mad because he can't experience the world like a human with human senses anymore. So.
Yeah, I think it's honestly hard to imagine the sensory deprivation of having no like nerve-ending contact with the world around you. Like it would kind of madden you if you couldn't like feel the breeze or feel the pressure of where you're existing or any of that. Like you're getting like filtered audio inputs and awareness of like physical resistance from your environment, but you're not like connected to it in that way that is very organic, very normal, like that defines the human experience.
Godzilla Rex points out, voiced by Mr. Krabs. So funnily enough, Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob is voiced by Clancy Brown, who has been many, many villains. Most notably the Kurgan in the Highlander,
Lex
Luthor in all the Justice Leagues, and Sergeant Zim in Starship Troopers, among many others. Got a super chat from Onion Stuff, who's really trying to get slide in your DMs.
Vera, can I DM you? No. Thank you, though.
Thank you for the super chat, Onion Stuff.
Appreciate it. Heart.
Wow, who knew that Cyberpunk was going to be the one that brought out all the romance?
I mean, it is a romantic game. Like you can play a prostitute in 2020.
I mean, arguably anybody who works for a corporation in Cyberpunk is a form of prostitution.
There's a little of that being corpo is
just saying. All right, so then you get to the whole definition of what is human. And Cyberpunk as a role-playing game dove into this, I think, far more than Shadowrun did. Was one of the reasons why Cyberpunk is remembered as a role-play game that stuck a lot more closely to the main themes of Cyberpunk is that it explored transhumanism, it explored the idea, what is human? And this is, I think, one of the most interesting ways that Cyberpunk dives into this question is through the idea of Alt Cunningham and the Soul Killer program and the idea of digital consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
How familiar are you with this, Vera?
I know a little bit. I've not gotten that deep into 2077, like I've said, but I know a little bit. I know a little bit. It's an interesting question. And it does relate to this idea of cyberpsychosis.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you are a digital construct, if you have been copied by Soul Killer, but you continue your existence in the net, does that mean you are you, it's the ship of Theseus, right? Like, you may have all the memories of that person. Are you still that person?
Yeah, and it kind of asks if like the digital version of you is a copy, or if it's effectively you. If you can you exist at the same time, right? Can you like?
Technically, you can.
Well, what makes you the person though? Is it
right? That's yeah,
yeah.
And I think that's one of the most fascinating questions, because digital intelligence is not. I mean, especially one that's a copy of a person, is not the same as an artificial intelligence. It is something categorically different, and existing in that form alters you. Like you are. I don't see how you could remain and think like a human after you've lived as a digital consciousness for a certain amount of time. I think you would just become something far more other than human.
We're going to discuss this at length whenever we talk about Eclipse Phase.
Oh yeah,
it is
like
the core idea of the setting.
We really should just do that next. We've hit Shadowrun, we've hit Cyberpunk. It's like the next logical step. I'll put it on the
board. Yeah. We'll do that soon. We have the Owlcat thing before too long.
Do you want to talk about that? Because Hawk teased it on the Discord.
Oh yeah, so we're working out times. It's going to be earlier in the day, but we are going to have someone from the narrative team over at Owlcat Games going to talk about Dark Heresy, and specifically the new Dark Heresy game. And I am pretty stoked about it.
Yeah,
we've been like setting that up for a little bit, but that'll happen like sometime in the next like couple weeks to a month. It's like hard to schedule because they are, I believe, 8 hours out of it. It's like GMT +3, and you're further left than I am at the global left. Ross lives like over there.
I'm in the like west. That away. I'm in technically the Midwest of America. So
that's left. West is left. Anyway, we'll get that scheduled before too long. It'll be fun.
Here's another super chat. Would you like to read this one?
Yo, Pumpkin Historian, thank you so much for the super chat. Are there people who refuse or even reject any enhancements to themselves as their religion and view them as abomination? Yeah, there are a few mentalities about this, right?
Yeah, there is. There are a group of monks you find in the video game, for example, that categorically reject altering their bodies with cyberware. And there's also a group called Maelstrom that has a semi-cultish approach to changing their bodies.
And the opposite.
Yeah, it's literally the opposite. So yeah, there's both of those things is true. There are people who refuse and reject to do enhancements. There are religions who do that. Sometimes it's just about like a personal choice. I think River's sister chooses not to do it for particular reasons. But anyway, yeah, it's extremely common though. Pumpkin Historian, in Cyberpunk, the idea of not having any kind of cyberware is like you've got to be pretty desperate, or you have to have a really good reason. Typically, I think the majority of people in Night City have cyberware. Vast majority.
Now, yeah, cyberware is expensive, but part of the problem is that you need it to function at the level you're expected to.
You can be. You can be required for construction or security or any military work.
Which leads to really dark company store type situations where you're paying off the investment made in your body that if it's turned off would be bad for you. And
yeah, there's actually some great side quests and things in Cyberpunk 2077 that revolve around like veterans uh, trying to get their implants serviced after their contract is up, things like that. Certain medications that they need to take. Mornington Crescent has some really interesting comments here. He says a lot of RPGs flavored it as taking on cybernetics is what lessened humanity, which was a balanced choice. But I always thought as the ultimate example of something corporate making it worse. Your branded cyberarm will of course retain functionality, but you can always opt in for the premium package allowing full autonomy.
ooh, that's grim.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, in that realm, cyberpsychosis is the ultimate dismissal and disposal of something once it's no longer of use by corporations. Dark, but also timely.
I do like the idea that some element of the factors that contribute to cyberpsychosis, that detachment from humanity, results from greed, from being unwilling to give you the comfortable experience of being in your body unless you pay a premium. Because like you can haggle your referee to get a cheap arm for 200 eddies, but that might not quite be enough to feel good about the existence you're living, right? Because you have this like dead lump of metal on you all the time then that's heavy and possibly cold and painful because there's no stimulation. So you're getting like nasty phantom pains like Metal Gear Solid 5. And you're grappling with that at all times. Makes your life worse.
Yeah, and I think what he was getting at too is that like a cyberarm is pretty cheap, right? Like
Yeah.
it's easy. It's convenient to replace your meat with metal in Cyberpunk. And
Well, it makes you better too. It's you need it for some things.
it does, but also like Night City is a place where the typical pleasures of life are not necessarily guaranteed. Like the food there is famously considered shit. Like it's all like reprocessed, reworked, garbage. And like if you live in a place where even just the act of culinary eating is restricted for the very rich, and you have to eat like shit that tastes like cardboard every day, yeah, replacing your mouth with metal maybe not the worst thing in the world.
You just eliminate taste entirely. Fuck it.
Right? I mean, why bother worrying about it? Wrestling Theater, love the name by the way. Rory Murchison over Carrie and Johnny. We're in dire need of new rocker boy characters. Rockers are the soul of the setting, just like solos and netrunners. Yeah, I would say medias and rockers are definitely the soul of Cyberpunk, the role-playing game.
Yeah, true enough. I think that like rockers encapsulate that core idea of what you even can do to like broadly resist the vibe. Because whatever you do to like succeed and make money despite the crushing corpo ecosystem you're in, very few of the classes produce good vibes.
Yeah,
right. Like there's this sorrow to it. There's this oppressive, malignant aura to the entire setting, right?
Wrestling Theater points out it's like Withrop without priests of Ulrich or rat catchers. Something feels missing.
Yeah, true enough. Like it's archetypal. It's archetypal. It's something that really serves a spiritual need in the setting.
Yeah, it's iconic for Cyberpunk as a role-playing game to have those things be front and center. Shadowrun tried it. They had Shadow Beats and they had the Anarchist Guides, which tried to establish this idea of being a rocker and a media as a thing, and the game just never leaned into it enough. So,
well, like part of the structure in Cyberpunk is that entertainment is boiled down to like brain dances, which are weird puppeteered experiences of someone else, which is also bad for you. Or they're like corporate TV that sells you things constantly. So your options are someone else's life and being marketed to.
Right. And brain dance, the whole brain dance thing in Cyberpunk is wild. This is yet another thing that Shadowrun tried to do with what they called BTL chips, better than life chips. which the idea of the Better Life chips in Shadowrun is that you go into this virtual simulation of a scene, and you feel like you're in it, like all the sensations of the person who recorded it are overlaid onto you, but the sensations are all turned up past what is real to be more than real, right? Like it's addictive because it feels like it's a better version of life. And you do see this in Cyberpunk as well with the brain dances, where there's people who never ever leave that once they get into it. Got a super chat for Pumpkin Historian. He says, by the way, Ross, love your Pillars of Eternity shirt, my favorite role-playing game. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Pillars of Eternity, I was an early adopter, so I got the t-shirt from the Kickstarter.
Heck yeah.
And we got one from Arrow Mob. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, thanks so much for the super chat, Arrow. A hot dog vendor in real life may have debt tied into his hot dog stand and he can't get rid of it until he makes a profit. A hot dog vendor in Night City might be his hot dog stand. Mustard, please.
A guy built into his hot dog stand. That's.
Oh, it's a grim fate, right? Like,
yeah.
You wouldn't relish that. You got to catch up with your debts. Tough stuff. Tough
stuff. Let's see what you did there. Wow, nicely done. I try. As the Germans say, that would be the worst.
I get it. I'll note that Eclipse Phase does also successfully do this with a more hopeful twist, because XP in Eclipse Phase is another form of like sensory export media, but it is worked in a way that is palatable and it is edited with artistic intent. So it is not just like rehashed gore scenes and like pornography. It's also a new filmmaking style. So again, a more hopeful kind of setting in a couple of ways.
It's shown in the video game and also in the role-playing game to be the brain dances are very exploitative. Like they, in a lot of ways, it very much echoes and predicted things like the rise of YouTube and influencers, right? Because anybody can record a brain dance, and a lot of people do it doing, crazy, stupid, shocking, outrageous things just so that people will buy and engage with their contents, which, again, timely. Hey.
I mean, I was thinking about this a little bit in relation to the end of Jackass, right? Because Jackass is done.
That is a fascinating study, too, because I've seen people talk about that as a scholarly look at almost like a documentary instead of the crazy, wacky action that it was.
Well, yeah, because it represents a era where someone being a jackass and hurting themselves on camera was like unheard of. Like, why would you do that? That's insane. And it's become an entire genre of now like kind of regulated heavily kind of thing. But like these flash in the pan moments of like total chaos that get captured on film everywhere have edged out the need for a TV show about doing that almost. It's an interesting thing.
Joe Numbers as a super chat. He says, "Good afternoon, chooms. Vera has an AI that found itself in a live body, and Ross is the owner of the last local game store in Night City."
I don't know about the Black Wall. What are you talking about?
Well, there are AIs that live on the on the right side of the Black Wall, like Delamain is an AI that lives. He's not trapped behind the Black Wall. So technically, you could be like Delamain and have your existence, not be tied to that if you didn't want to. But
I love the idea of running the last FLGS.
Worst Cyberpunk feature ever. No, I don't know. It would be fun. That's wild. I can see myself trying to explain to kids. No, these are dice. You roll them physically with your hand.
No. Don't use the Autobot. We don't want that. No Holo Pro. No. Well, it makes a sound when you do it. It's exciting.
Just Netwatch wants to have a word with you, Vera. Yeah, so I don't
know her.
Yeah. I love these tools you have. I see that you're actually a great example of, you're actually a living example of something that cyberpunk as a genre has predicted, which is the rise of virtual. I want to say icons, but you know, virtual. I mean, what you know this better than I do, and I don't want to say something that'll come out being like prejudicial, but there is a rise. There's a prediction in cyberpunk that there will be virtual people essentially who are in our entertainment, they're in our news, they're in our music, and we have Hatsune Miku already, right? We have been drifting in this direction, and now we've got full on like this is your job, like this is who you this is how you make your living, you know, on the internet
this is like
as a virtual person.
This is my career. I exist as an entity that is virtual. Like I am creature. I am online. I am net running right now.
Yeah, and I think that would be something that you have a very unique perspective on. Like, how would you be able to do what you do in the world of cyberpunk? And if you did, how would that would anything change?
Well, I mean, yeah, like this is as a archetype of thing doing. I think that streaming is going to endure. That like making stuff online is going to endure because you're seeing this differentiation between the traditional media and what is effectively a media in cyberpunk. Someone who operates outside these structures and makes things that speak to their personality in a way that's more unfiltered. Like part of my thesis as a virtual creator is that it is possible to be realer than real, like that using an avatar can actually make something more genuine rather than less. Like I'm able to really embody the kind of aesthetic concepts that I like in a way that's flexible and enabled by game development technology. And as I continue to revise this stuff over the next few years, you'll really see what I mean. But the potential opened up by operating in a digital space is really, really rich. And it is something we're just starting to see in the last, I would say, like even 4 or 5 years. And I'm right now, I will tell you, on the cutting edge of technology. Being able to like do this and like hang out, this is like something like one little crick in the neck there is about like as good as it gets. And I'm going to be using this to do production that's, I would say, pretty ambitious. So as like a school of thing doing, it is then you could do perhaps in a more advanced way in Night City. I'm sure the technology is a lot better by then, but it's I feel an accurate prediction. This called shot that like virtual creatures would start to be a source of genuinity. You know, like because the essence of what forges like meaning is not necessarily tied to a human face. It's tied to like the spirit. We're getting into the soul killer again.
That's true. I got a super chat really quick here from Ricky Chapman. Thank you so much, Ricky Chapman. You've been great today. We really appreciate your support. He says, Blackhand, talking about Morgan Blackhand, the legendary solo of the setting, is the greatest example of what you can do with almost no chrome. Man is the Night City legend. He is definitely a Night City legend, although I do think he's got more chrome than you think. But one of the things about Morgan Blackhand is he doesn't really advertise what he does. He's said to be able to blend in, right, pretty well. So that's not necessarily surprising. You may consider him less chromed than he may actually be.
Well, it's interesting because chrome is kind of a status symbol too, right?
It can be. Lizzie Wizzy is a rocker in 2077, and she's famously adopted a very chrome persona to the fact to the point where you don't see any meat on her at all. It may just be like skin coverings. She may actually have like more, meat underneath the metal, but certainly her exterior is very shiny and chrome, to use a Mad Max term. But that's a good example there. We do have also some virtual idols, I think was the term I was maybe thinking of. And we have, let's see here. People said, Morning Crescent, the theater believes in putting on a mask. You can be yourself, but more.
Well, yeah, like conceptually, a mask reveals as it conceals. Masks have a purpose to them. They're either for a necessity or a ritual or a aesthetic purpose. They convey a specific idea and they make that like the heart of your presentation of the world. Like I did a okay, this is one of my like deepest nerd moments, but I basically wrote an entire dissertation on clowning, masks, and the art of dance as I was preparing to play a war dancer in 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy. And I did a lot of thinking about this when I did. I have so much internal material for this that'll never see the light of day. So I've thought about this a lot.
And I want to ask you more about it. I do. Joe Number says that you are possibly an archetype of a new version of a media.
Oh, shucks.
And the Wrestling Theater says you're kind of a rocker boy netrunner multi-class. How would you see a virtual creature as a playable character in a role-playing game like Cyberpunk? Is that something that you would see as something that could be core to a group, or is it more like an NPC that occasionally pops in from time to time?
Oh, totally. Like the problem is you can't directly interact with the environment, right? But that's not that much of an obstacle, frankly. Like having played a lot of Eclipse Phase, I know for a fact you don't need to have a physical embodied form. It limits what you can do in some circumstances, but if you've got like a net running aspect, especially, you can quick hack things, you can negotiate, you can use social pull. There's a lot you can accomplish. Like being locked out of physical combat is not the worst thing because it's often the worst part of the session anyway. Hot take. I think it's entirely workable. To say nothing of your ability to inhabit like a cute little mascot robot and clamber like
that is super fun. I think one of my questions I would have for a character who wanted to play a virtual creature would be like, in a setting like Cyberpunk where the digital mask could easily be faked, right? Like the sound or your voice or your visuals, it wouldn't be okay that and have that filter then say or do things. Where would you'd have to establish, I think, a certain level of trust, right? That you are an authentic person using a digital mask rather than the mask. There's vulnerabilities in the mask is what I'm trying to say.
Well, like we're already at the point where like deep fakes are a thing and you can't really guarantee that, right? Like I was asked today, hey, is that your real voice? Like,
yeah, that actually happened today. That literally did happen.
Why would you choose to sound like this? Come on. But I think that you'd wind up with like a lot of authentication technologies to just verify it's the same person. But even in the continuity of the setting, like there's all of these virtual connections. Like you could spoof these like calls. They're always like on call with each other. If you can fake that, you can fake anything. Like it's the same thing. Like it's just all so virtual already. Like I think that's not a giant distinction.
Or a distinction without a difference. I like Aramob saying, as a disembodied digital creature, you have proficiency in forklifts.
Exactly. I'm Shenmue.
Oh my God. We got to talk about Shenmue. Oh, we got to talk about Shenmue. You know where the sailors hang out?
Oh boy.
Oh my God. All right. Pumpkin Historian, would you like to read this one?
Yeah, thank you for the super chat. So Johnny Silver was a VTuber. Damn straight he was. Absolutely an iconic VTuber. So I recognize a lot of y'all might not be like in the VTubing scene, but to give you an idea of how a disembodied character can be part of the party in real life, there is a whole wide variety of tech out there to have VTubers attend physical events. Like you'll see like monitors on wheels, like remote piloted around with controllers at conventions and things. One of the biggest VTubers in the world, Iron Mouse, is someone who's done a ton of like IRL content on a phone screen brandished by friends of hers, like taken to Japan and on adventures. And like there's this virtual pipeline where you are connected to that place via like remote access, but it's not limited to like boardrooms or Skype calls on the laptop. You can really do this anywhere, and do like man on the street interviews with someone who's 8,000 miles away.
Yeah, like in my last corporate job, we got we had a special event which was called a virtual tour, and basically this person on a bike with a GoPro was running around Paris and showing us things in Paris. And it was cool, but it was also like, this is very cyberpunk. I am watching someone give me a virtual tour when I am many, many miles away in a different country. And not for nothing, if I had a voice changer, if I could decide what my voice sounded like on the internet, I would have an enchanting Irish accent. Just
Heck yeah.
Right. Also, the KDA live performances Marty Crescent brings up is another example of this thing. This is it's Max Headroom, right? This is literally the Max Headroom prediction of a virtual personality that can be anywhere and be a thing that people engage with. And is it parasocial? That's a question. I don't know.
So parasociality kind of comes from forging a one-sided and distorted vision, you know? So like being a fan isn't parasocial. What's parasocial is being the Bjork stalker. You know? What's parasocial is deciding that like a friendship has formed with someone you've never spoken to directly that has no idea you exist.
All right. If cloning was a thing and I was a supervillain, I would absolutely create a Bjork horde.
Oh my god. Oh no, they're going to disassemble all our TVs. What are we going to do?
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
I think that parasociality is an intriguing concept because it gets thrown around like as like a diss, but you need to really have a warped view of reality to get parasocial is the thing. Like it takes like sort of a twisted understanding, you know? Like people who think they really are going to get married to the Beatles. You know, this was a thing.
Brock 6000 says, I did not have Bjork horde on my bingo card today.
Oh, you always should. That's the center square.
That's your wild card.
I think the center square is either wrestling or the word verisimilitude.
You fool.
It could be Elric. It could be that.
Why don't we talk a little bit about Cyberpunk Red, the newest one?
Yeah, okay.
So just really quick, Wrestling Theater says cloning is a thing in Cyberpunk 2020. I know that's true. I know. I was saying like now, like right now today, if cloning was a thing, I could just do. But you're right, that it is a thing in there. So Cyberpunk Red they added a new role to make it a total of 10. So you got your rocker boy, your solo, your net runner, your tech, your med tech. This is where med tech comes in.
Okay.
Red, because you did mention that earlier. Media lawman. They moved away from cop and instead said lawman, which I do appreciate the distinction there. Exec instead of corpo. Fixer and nomad.
Mm-hmm.
And each of these, of course, contains its own life path. So the rocker boy, as we said before, these are your cultural agitators, your ability to mobilize or influence people in the world. Solos are all about combat. They are your soldiers, your street samurais. Net runners, of course, your hackers. They interface with the net. They can hack things. Your techs are the guys that make gear, repair gear, fix things, fabricate things, invent things. Med techs are your medics. They fix you. They heal you. They perform surgery. They sometimes could even potentially install cyberware. There's the media. Here's the core thing about medias in Cyberpunk. Do you know what the ability or the special power of the role ability is what it's called of the media is called?
I don't know what it's called. No.
It's chef's kiss. It's called credibility.
Yep. Okay.
So, and again, very timely that the most important thing for a media to have is for someone who's trying to tell you what's going on is credibility, which I love.
So if I can return to like the media as this prescient thing that encapsulates like the sort of media, like online vibe we've got for thing making now, part of credibility as a small creator is like actually kind of knowing people and being a real person. Because the beauty of making things independently and not doing like broadcast structure and like having like an online chat and like being able to go back and forth is you kind of like know people in your community. And this is where sociality gets like misused, because there are certain dynamics you can have when you're like enormous and there's like thousands of people scrolling by in your chat where you truly don't know who the fuck people are. But like even at like a moderately pretty large size of like content creation where you have like hundreds of people who show up for your things and get like thousands and thousands of views and stuff, you kind of know people. And part of credibility is that you're known also. Like there's this interesting dynamic that emerges where you kind of get to know people in your community and like you establish credibility because you're like known by them as a real person. You like build like actual rapport and get to like kind of communicate and understand each other and share stuff. And it's cool. And that is the idea of the media. That is like specifically the idea is that that's in stark contrast to the entire sphere of entertainment, which is just either the disembodied experience of another person, which you were experiencing secondhand, or advertisements.
You know, ads might be the real way to like handle a virtual creature in a cyberpunk game. You know, if you've got a Vera Samila watching over your shoulder, like, you know, doing net Overwatch, and all of a sudden she gets spammed with like 800 pop-ups about OnlyFans. You know?
This is literally a mechanic in Eclipse phase.
Right? I mean, it should be. It absolutely should be. So one of the other things that Cyberpunk Red did slightly differently is it added a different way to do kind of the cycle of an edge runner. The original cycle of the edge runner was like, you know, you do a job, you get paid off, you buy your gear, settle your expenses, recover your wounds, and then move on, right? That's the normal thing. But in Cyberpunk Red, they introduced downtime. They introduced like, hey, you've got to pay rents. You've got to buy ammo. You got to repair your armor. You got to maintain your cyborg. You got to cultivate your contacts, which I really like. Cultivating contacts is a thing that is often falls by the wayside in role-playing games. Like you can have pre-existing relationships, like, oh, I have this, you know, this person is a old flame, this person is somebody I used to work with. But you and I both know that in the actual world, if you just stop talking to someone for a long time, they will drift away. That connection will fade.
So-called friendship decay.
I mean, it happens. It's a literal part of the human condition. Is if you don't speak to someone after a while, you know, their connection with you starts to degrade. So I like that downtime is a way to do more role playing, because you're literally going out to the people, you know, the people that are important to your character, and saying, okay, we need to spend some time together. We need to, you know, check in, see how you're doing. Is there something I can do for you? And that's also part of like the whole financial pressure of a cyberpunk setting too, because you have to be hungry to take the risky work. And that could be true for, you know, if that can also be true for your contacts. Maybe they're in a bad space because the crushing oppression of capitalism, right? And in Cyberpunk Red, this also goes to your roles. They have role-specific downtime activities. Techs make and upgrade equipment. Med techs heal and install cyberware. You know, fixers arrange deals. You go to the night markets, which are the places in Night City where you can go find black market gear, fell off a truck, you know. But it turns the cycle of, you know, get job, get paid, do the next thing, and adds aspects of role play into it that I really like. I admire that. Now, Cyberpunk Red is a little bit less granular than Cyberpunk 2020, but it's also more tactical. It's got armor ablation. It's got ammunition injuries, movements, cover, distance. All of these things matter in ways that are, I think, maybe a little more. It's aiming for a really cinematic, physical action, gunplay, combat scenarios.
Is it Red that added tarot cards?
I don't. There are tarot cards in the video game. I don't know.
I thought that was from some like X-Pack thing. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let me just do a quick search on that so I can find out for you. But Yeah, there's an optional DLC. Not DLC. There's an optional. Well, it's downloadable. I mean, it's a PDF, so technically it's DLC. Called Night City Taro, and this was created with CD Projekt Red and uses the art from the
Okay,
video
okay.
game. So it is kind of like DLC. But it's an optional combat subsystem. Basically when some sort of serious critical injury happens, you can draw a card or roll for it, and adds some kind of dramatic and unusual effect and outcome. Not unlike, actually, this is kind of how the cards worked for Wrath of Glory. Just they weren't cool tarot cards.
Well, perhaps inspired, in fact, by a design that you've done, Ross.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would be surprised if these guys were Wrath of Glory fans, but you never know.
Well, I mean, just cool critical charts in general are kind of the brainchild of this fellow over here. Like they're the soul of a lot of the combat in Warhammer 40K games. So
I am an enthusiast of those tables, but I did not create them. That would be Mike Mason, Owen Barnes, and Kate Flack for Dark Heresy, and I just carried on the tradition from there. But there are Arduin Grimoire and other games from the 70s, especially the Rollmasters line, had extremely detailed and visceral crits long before Dark Heresy did. So
you heard it here first. Ross invented the idea of critical hits being cool. He came up with it.
Why? Why? Vera, you kill me. But I love what you were saying though about the idea of the parasocial relationships and whatnot, because we've covered a lot of, again, behavioral psychology, right? That always sticks in my brain. That's the Ponsman studied that before creating Cyberpunk, because so many aspects of Cyberpunk touch on what I would consider fairly advanced parts of human psychology and behavioral activities.
And again, this anticipates a conversation we're going to have in Equips phase about rep networks.
Oh yeah. Well, I desperately want to get a guest on. It's been very difficult to find anyone. So if anybody's out there who knows anybody who worked on Eclipse Phase and wants to get them on the show to talk to us about it, please reach out. Love to hear from them.
Yeah, I think that it's true that there's this psychology that comes into it, because like a lot of the energy of the setting is about being in an untenable situation, right? Like the spirit of it is that you are under the thumb of the worst situation, and you're looking for meaning and freedom and connection inside of that, right?
Oh, so fun fact, the company's called R. Talsorian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is, according to what I read, that is a name that he picked after an investor who is a raisin farmer in Fresno, or described as a raisin farmer in Fresno, and who Pondsmith said is the one person who would never show up to any gaming convention ever, which is kind of hilarious. He named his company after an investor who will never even know.
That's awesome.
I kind of love that. I got to be clear. I just thought that was a fun little bit. Yeah, Cyberpunk as an RPG, I think you can now say stands alongside Ghost in the Shell and Blade Runner and many other, Johnny Mnemonic, Hardwired, and Neuromancer. It is now, I would argue, one of the touchstones for the genre. It's become the thing that it said on the tin.
Oh yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 is, I think we will see people 20 years from now talking about how influential that has been on other games and other genres and other stories and other characters. Just like, good.
Edge Runner is one of the greatest anime of all time, cementing Trigger's legacy. I predict that season 2 is going to again be like a bombshell. You want to talk about really influential works? I think this stacks up. It's like it's like this VTM and D&D from tabletop games and their broader societal impact.
Yeah, that's not wrong. I think so. Like we said earlier, it's not the first role-playing game that got to be a big AAA sized video game, but it is definitely the most successful. I think even more successful than Bloodlines. And Whereas we see, you actually see the corporatization of role-playing game companies, like a good example being White Wolf, that was bought by Paradox Interactive and is now, brought fully into their, incorporated into their corporation, if you will. And so Pondsmith, as an individual creator, is probably one of the most successful, if you want to gauge success in terms of pop culture impact. He's probably one of the most successful tabletop game designers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, VTM is esteemed. It is like, I think it is one of the best regarded and like broadly influential things, like one of the best games. But 2077 sold copies. Like, well, people have played.
Well, trust me, like Edgerunners hit like a bomb. Edgerunners 2 is going to hit, I'm pretty sure. Cyberpunk 2077 had a very rough launch, but it has become an incredible success. There's videos on YouTube right now. You can go watch people talking about how many people are playing it now. And the estimation was that prior to 2077, Cyberpunk, the role-playing game, had influenced or had been played by as many as 5 million people worldwide, which is a big number. That's a lot of people over a long period of time.
It's a big number.
Yeah,
count that high.
as Matthew Broderick once said, that's a lot of fish. Sorry, referencing a terrible Godzilla movie.
No. Tell me more about fish. I like these. I'm an angler.
You did just get back from a fishing trip, didn't you?
Yeah. I hope to go again before the end of summer. Dude, I caught 2 fish on 1 rig. I was so proud.
Nice.
Sadly, Cyberpunk cannot have fishing mini games because nothing lives in that water.
They make a point of that. They do talk about that. Yeah, so there's a very lasting influence of Cyberpunk as a role-playing game. There's a very lasting influence of it on the genre that it's named after. That's such a wild thing, to basically name yourself after a genre and then become a cornerstone or touchstone of that genre. That's just an example of one of the bold, crazy things that Maximum Mike Pondsmith has done.
Well, it's audacious, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's like naming your system Wuja and then going on to define that scene.
Well, there's been role-playing games that name themselves kind of some weird things. Feng Shui is like a very weird, like the name of that role-playing game has nothing to do with what it actually is.
It wasn't trying to teach you how to have good Feng Shui. It was not a game about like orienting your bed so the energy's not boxed in.
It was a game about kicking ass in style. Yeah, and of course, we talked about the spin-offs. We talked about Netrunner. We talked about Cyber Generation. It's interesting too that net running as so there's a whole setting called Android, which was used for Fantasy Flight games. They used it for board games. There was also some novels. It's actually a pretty good Cyberpunk setting, but it's heavily based on Cyberpunk 2020. And in fact, the Netrunner card game got repurposed for Android. So, between Cyberpunk 2020, Android, Paranoia, and many other Cyberpunk adjacent franchises, IPs, there's a vast web of connections here. Oh, Pumpkin Historian, you want to read this one?
Yeah, thank you so much for the super chat. In regards to the Cyberpunk 2077 video game, a suggestion for the next subject: the history and development of RPG video games. Ooh, so in terms of history, that would be a really broad topic. But in terms of development, I think there is room to have a really interesting conversation about ludology, about like interpretation, and about adaptation, using specific examples, which I think might be a good bridge from our upcoming conversation with Alcat, because we're going to talk specifically about the adaptation of Dark Heresy. And we could follow that up by talking about other specific examples like Bloodlines, like Baldur's Gate, and so on. So maybe, yeah, I mean, we'd need to like pick like some number of individual games to go through and talk about how they have adapted settings and mechanics and elements. And they'd be more interesting if they weren't all CRPGs. Like, God knows there's that one sort of battle royale style VTM game that shut down recently. Did anybody play this? It was like the Fortnite of being a vampire. That didn't last long, but games like that could be fun to talk about as well.
Well, yeah, it's a big topic, as Mickey Stopwatch is pointing out. It's a very big topic. But I agree, it would be fun to talk about that. Mornington Crescent points out Feng Shui was the first role-playing game to treat mooks differently to named NPCs. That's true. Feng Shui did have that, and it's a fascinating game that I absolutely want to talk about on this channel because it did a lot of big things differently. That Super Babes, various other role-playing games, Cyber Generation.
Wow,
there's a lot.
When's Super Babes?
We talked about this before, Vera. You know very well what Super Babes is.
More Super Babes.
But yeah, so beyond, so I think obviously when you're talking about Cyberpunk, the biggest shadow is the adaptation to the video game, because that is their most well-known evolution of it. The adaptation to Edge Runners was pretty great. It's not the first time RPGs have been in anime, but it is certainly the first time that specific RPG was put into anime. And what's fascinating about Edge Runners as an anime is the way that it maps directly onto that video game. Like, you can literally visit all the places the characters visit in the game. They did such a great job of translating it over.
Yeah, like there's an artistry to it. Like, they literally have these specific locations mapped out. It's so there's this concept in anime called pilgrimage. People go to like pilgrimage spots because it's very common for production companies to take locations they've been to physically and to use those to structure out locales and backgrounds for specific shots. So, like, if you're a Bocchi the Rock fan, there is a real bar that Starry is modeled after. People like go to the stairs there and take photos. Haru, he has a lot of these. You can do this in Night City. You can go to that spot from that mission. You can go there. Pretty cool.
There's expansions for Fallout New Vegas that introduced new weapons, and one of them is called Bocchi the Glock, which I thought was hilarious.
My god.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That's so good.
Bocchi the Glock.
What does it hold? One round? What's the gag?
I don't know.
Does it do more damage when you go to the party?
I never downloaded it. I just love the name.
Is it pink?
Isn't Bocchi like is that the same guys that did Freyrin? Like, that was their earlier thing, I think.
I don't know what the studio name is. I forget. It's okay. Good though.
So some other fun facts about Cyberpunk Red. Why is it called Cyberpunk Red, Vera? Do you know?
Because it runs 3 times as fast as the previous version of Cyberpunk.
It's part of a period of time called the Time of the Red, because it refers to the red-tinged skies and environmental aftermath from the Fourth Corporate War's destruction.
Yeah, it's like 5 years after, right? Because it's like 2045, I want to say.
What is the year?
It should be around then.
I'll have to look that up. It does have the official Taro rules, which we talked about. It is intentionally intentionally built as a bridge between Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk 2077. So Cyberpunk Red is what happens in between those two time periods. So it covers a pretty big span of space. It's set during 2045 is the year.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, talk about like ambition, right? To be so confident in the anime/video game release that you're going to make an edition of your RPG to structure toward them. Like, it's pretty cool. Has that ever been done before?
I don't think so. Probably. Like, I'm going to say it's likely someone did it. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
Maybe there was like a BattleTech edition that was trying to like point toward the books in some way. That could have happened, but
there's of course Dark Age for BattleTech. We need to talk about BattleTech at some point. Oh my god. Yeah, there's bridges in BattleTech between a lot of things, including the cartoon and the Clicks game. So yeah, they did build bridges for that. Cyberpunk Red, though, one thing that's really cool about its tech in Cyberpunk Red is super cheap. It is cheaper than even your basic necessities. It is easier to find cyberware than secure housing, fresh food, and medicine.
That sounds right.
Which I kind of love. It's
Hey,
an expression of the warped priorities of the cyberpunk world.
you get chromed up, maybe you can afford nice things.
Yeah, usually by
Come
taking
on.
it from other people.
Do the job. Yeah.
In Cyberpunk Red, some of the things that they changed was there's two nets. The original net was basically fractured during an event called the Data Crash that was engineered by Ray Spartmoss, the guy we talked about earlier. Yeah, Mortgage Crescent actually points out this: how much is your rent? How much is your phone? Yeah, I mean, your phone is cheaper than your rent typically. It's a good point.
I use both every day.
Right? I do too, but my phone is definitely cheaper than my rent. So Cyberpunk Red has two nets. It has the first net that was crashed, and then it has the new net, the city net is what it's called, that supports ordinary local and civic commercial activity. It's like they have little enclaves now of internet activity to replace what had been the global net. And in this setting, the nomads, which is, as you remember, one of the main roles, they are now the supply chain superpower of Night City, because they're not just road gangs. These are the ones that move goods and connect communities and protect convoys. They have a lot more leverage because they can deliver what the cities cannot produce locally. I like that a lot too. Cyberpunk Red was built to solve the problem of net running, and it gives you the way that they've done the collapse of the net and having this new net kind of gives you a reason to be a localized net runner. You can't just sit in your apartment and hack something across the city. You'll have to be there physically. And this means that you're not playing a solo mini game. You're actually with the group doing the group's things. Now, I'm sure that can be adapted for a virtual creature. My Choom. my Choom, Vera.
Your V-Choom.
It would be preem to have you on our mission.
Aw, shucks.
But the other stuff that Cyberpunk Red did differently, tens on the 10-sided dice now explode, and natural ones are worse. So now we have critical successes and fumble behaviors. And basically, you can allow for dramatic reversals. This is something that I just wrapped up my Star Wars game, my D6 Star Wars game. And one thing I loved about the way the Wild Die works, one of the reasons why I adopted it for Wrath of Glory, is that it kept introducing those very Star Wars moments of a dramatic reversal occurring at the exact right time. And as long as you could keep that in your mind and make it fit the Star Wars feel, it really, really worked out. So I can imagine this being a good thing for a cyberpunk role-playing game.
Well, yeah, it leads to dramatic and bombastic outcomes. Like crazy shit starts to happen. Pretty cool.
And the roles all got some more interesting stuff too. Fixers do more than just sell guns. They can basically make an economy happen. Fixers in Cyberpunk Red can find buyers and sellers. They can help organize and contact people that you need, your contacts. They are your hub for contacts. They can organize the night markets. Basically, these are, like we said, they're temporary community marketplaces. They're like little black markets that pop up overnight. They're central to the scarcity economy of Cyberpunk Red, which is definitely a scarcity, not post-scarcity, definitely scarcity, which is different from Eclipse Phase, which is post-scarcity.
This is acute scarcity.
Right? Yeah, very acute. It's so acute, it's ugly. Hey. Okay, that one didn't land.
Like, Cyberpunk represents... Also, +2. Cyberpunk represents a... Cyberpunk presents a vision of the future where the corporations have won and the punks have lost, but they're still doing their best. Eclipse Phase represents a world where anarchy works. And these are very different approaches to sci-fi.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is one of the reasons why I really was into Cyber Generation, because it was presenting the idea of rebelling against that system and trying to find ways to not just exist, but change things
and thrive. Yeah. And the
yeah.
potential for change is made possible by the crazy upheaval, right? Like you need that void to be opened at any chance.
We have a great super chat from Joe Numbers. Would you like to read this one?
Vera with a tiny drone, both running VTuber software and streaming as she acts as a netrunner for a crew, teaches chat how to netrun in the process. Okay, Tubes, today we're going to make this guy shoot himself in the head. Now, check this out. So, he's running like old Arasaka Miltech, right? Big mistake. There was a software update pushed like 2 weeks back that he doesn't have because he's been on deployment. Watch this.
Oh my god, that's awesome. I so badly want you to play the Cyberpunk now. And be this
That
character.
sounds
That would
fucking
be
awesome.
so great.
I would truly love that.
That would be amazeballs. I would play that game for sure and just sit there and watch you be like, okay, it's Vera's turn. Let's see what happens. This is gonna be amazing.
Well, I gotta run Empires of Satanas first, which we're gonna do in August. It's taken a mix of a lot of things like to finesse and do, and I'm done with contract work and stuff. So I nearly have that ready. It's like walking a date, but it's gonna be fun. Then we're gonna do one shots. Could happen.
Yeah, I hit Alt F4 and everything went black. What do I do now?
I will manually reboot you, but I need a minute.
Oh my god, that's absolutely insane. I love it.
Well, like the cool thing about being a netrunner streamer is like if chat gets like we can make a play stop hitting yourself, right? Like get bullied.
The expansion of the corpo in Cyberpunk Red is actually really cool too. Their role ability kind of lets them draw on corporate resources. They can even deploy like teams if they need to, but it comes with a lot of like obligations and baggage and oversight and rivals and divided loyalties. I think they did a good job of taking someone who should be an antagonist and saying, okay, no, you can play this character. You can even use, some of the tools that Megacorps have at their fingertips. It's just you also are on a much more razor's edge than you think. Which I really like.
It's fun to have like split motivations like that too. Like Mornington saying, full well Vera would run ads for the corpo she was running against. I don't know how we got away with this, but me and my friend Catherine were streaming Minecraft, like the Minecraft sponsorship on Twitch a while back. And we were saying some heinous shit followed by sponsored by Microsoft.
Oof.
And we got paid.
Wow.
We made like $100-something on that. So pretty cool.
I appear to be in the wrong industry. Wow. I like this one from Rush. Trying to sneak up on someone and a text-to-speech alert goes off.
Hey, Vera, how's the sneaking mission going?
You hear whatever sound is for a subscription and you're like, oh, thank you so much for, oh, shit. Security guard, what was that?
Hey, thanks for the cheer. We're in a gunfight now. Cool.
I mean, there's so many aspects of modern gaming and especially Twitch streaming and stuff like that would carry over really well. I'm shocked. I bet you in Cyberpunk Red there's something somewhere for like chat plays Dwarf Fortress, something like that where it's just like I let chat decide what I do. I'm a solo. Shoot that guy. Okay.
That'd be such a good take on this. Like again, Eclipse Phase supports this explicitly, right? Like Eclipse Phase wants you to do this. They envision that kind of future. I think there is a ton of room for it in Cyberpunk, but it was not like part of the core conceit of what media would look like. But it is like I maintain like this is like the corner of our experience that maps to that dynamic, right? Like there is something to this. I'm curious now.
Yeah, I definitely want to play this game.
I too. I would love that.
I'm excited about this.
Well, it'd be so much fun. We could have like everybody like role play in chat also. Like we can literally like this is a great idea.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can see that. I can actually see that. I'm trying to think of my way through it, but there's
I got a big smile and I'm happy.
Oh yeah, nice. Nice. So yeah, I think we're getting close to the time for our final thoughts on Cyberpunk. Did you want to go first, or would you like me to talk about it?
You're welcome to go first. Go ahead, please, please, please.
So one of the things I think that's really great about Cyberpunk as a role-playing game is all the things it predicted, but also its approach to making things feel personal. Beneath all the chrome and the corporate wars and the neon spectacle of the whole thing, it's about people trying to preserve their identity. It's about their relationships, their agency. These are the things they're trying to keep alive because the system, the world, treats all these things like commodities. The mega corporations have tried to commodify all of those things. And, you know, Cyberpunk 2020 had this very raw, lethal complexity to it. Cyberpunk Red is more about the role play. And I think that's actually a fun way to look at the evolution of a game over time. So the best stories in Cyberpunk are really not about saving the world. They're about deciding who's worth saving when the world is already on fire.
Yeah.
I really like that. The game feels so relevant now, the role-playing game of Cyberpunk, because so much of what it predicted as far future imagination is now just ordinary life for us. There's instantaneous global communication. We have it. Online identities built around performance and image. We have it. Pervasive data collection, surveillance, algorithmically mediated culture, emerging AI, corporations with extraordinary influence over your work, your housing, your entertainment, your health, your public life. Mike Pondsmith came up with something that I feel is a warning, not an aspiration. Thank please God, it's not an aspiration. It's a warning. And it's centered on the intersection of technology and power and responsibility. And the question of whether corporations should be allowed to structure people's lives. So style over substance, you know, that's not just an excuse for mohawks and neon jackets and cool sunglasses. It is a form of self-authorship. I think you'd agree with this, Vera.
Oh, yeah.
Because the cyberpunk world, which is increasingly more like our world, is determined to turn people into consumers and employees and data points and replaceable assets. And an edge runner, right? These people that stand outside of that in many ways rebel against it. Even if they can't, you know, even if their career means that they're technically still working for the corporations, their look, their reputation, their music, their culture, their chosen family. This is how they say, I am not just what the system tells me to be. Because I am not something you can buy or measure or discard. So style over substance. Style can be just another commodity. It can be just another corporate product, but it can also be a distraction from the material problems underneath all the glamour. But goddamn, at least you feel like you look cool while you're doing it, right? At least that's the difference between you and me. I make this look good, right? Remember from Men in Black? I think the strongest cyberpunk role-playing games, and this includes a computer game as well as the tabletop, you can hold on to both ideas at once. You can look incredible, and you can make the impossible seem cool, but you also know that the consequences still matter. Who gets exploited? Who gets to control the tech? Who profits from these crises? And whether you can use what little power you have to survive or to help protect one another. Those are the elements of Cyberpunk as a role-playing game I love. And there's a tension in there between spectacle and solidarity. There's a intersection of rebellion and conformity with commodification. And the tabletop game is both entertaining and uncomfortably close to our real life. So yeah, Cyberpunk is a role-playing game that I would definitely want to enjoy, but at times I do feel like it's just telling me it's maybe like a tarot reading of my potential future.
Yeah, well said. I think that we live in what I like to refer to as a boring dystopia. Because, like you've said, we have all the surveillance, all of the consolidation of wealth and power. We have all of the observation and enforcement, and we don't have mantis arms.
Yeah, right. Where's my cool mantis blades?
This creates what I think is an imbalance. Because part of the core fantasy of Cyberpunk is that being caught in the middle, you have the agency, the raw skill to differentiate yourself and cause waves. Even if they're not going to overturn anything, you can like be a spark that causes like real pain, you know? And it's pretty fucking hard to pull that off in the scenario we are in. You can't get a Miltech spinal replacement that lets you move at hyper speed, right? Not yet, we can't. Where my metal bones, Arasaga? I need those. I need those to flip cars. It's hard to deliver the level of punkitude that Cyberpunk promises. Like we have a lot of the most bummerific elements of this sort of dystopian setting, but without the means to resist them. And like the risk you take on when you're trying to do anything to strike back against that is pretty high in a lot of cases. Like it's rough, and it does highlight a lot of things that are crunchy and difficult about like the world we live in. Like even the more palatable elements of like the cyberpunk roles, like doing a media thing, you go fucking broke, I'll tell you. Like you got to like really take on risk to do any of this stuff, and there's no sick Chrome to help with it. So it provides, I think, a kind of cathartic way to play out an exaggerated version of the situation we really are all in right now, with the potential to like really rocket and make waves. But it does get a little dark because you go, holy shit, that is happening. All that stuff I said about Elon Musk the other day is in a folder somewhere. So
I mean, you probably just got a text alert.
Vera, stop talking. It could be heavy. It could be heavy because it was so effective at predicting where we're at now. And that makes it meaningful, but it also makes it kind of somber, you know? Like we're talking about like doing like a streamer type thing. Like shit, I do that now. Like it's like an exaggerated version of this self. Like we're so close to this reality. It's just a little less violent, at least in the home front in the States, you know?
Yeah, well, I think you make some really good points there. And I think possibly that's why Cyberpunk is attractive, is that catharsis, that idea of at least I get to do something about it. You know, even if it's just in a game, I get to feel like I'm playing out these fantasies I've had.
Until Adam Smasher shows up.
Right.
The house always wins. That's the thing.
There's a great one for Pumpkin Historian. Would you like to read this one?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the super chat. Theodore Roosevelt looking in Cyberpunk 2077. I'll pick up these Megagorp's biggest boogeyman.
Nice.
Teddy.
Good old Teddy. Oh yeah, so Joe Numbers points out there was a series of gangs that copied folks from history, like go full-on history cosplayers, get their faces sculpted to resemble folks. The Bull Moose Party could and should be a thing. Yeah,
Heck
God.
yeah.
You know, this reminds me of the Dark Knight Returns, where Batman, like a gang forms around Batman to become the Bat Cult, if you will.
There was a recent run that did this with the Hulk also, which was very funny because it was a bunch of like dissidents in Hulk masks. This happened recently. It was so goofy.
I always remember Hank Venture from the Venture.
Yeah,
Brothers. I will become the Bat.
Who I think wore both Batman and Hulk masks at different points.
I think, well, he had Hulk. No, you're thinking of Henchman 21. He had Hulk hands. Hulk hands on Henchman 21. The Sons of Batman, the Sons of the Bat. Yeah, that's. I always wanted. There's a local group here that does Dystopia Rising, which is a LARP set in a Mad Max type post-apocalypse. and I wanted to be like, I wanted to, have to like say I was a son of the bat and carry an actual baseball bat marked with Batman symbols on it. That was like going to be my persona. And then I was like,
oh, that rules.
yeah, that's probably a little too one note. I stepped away from it, but it was a fun idea.
What are we doing in Neotropolis, Ross?
What is Neotropolis?
It's the Cyberpunk version of Wasteland Weekend.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, like Wasteland Weekend this year is September 30th to October 4th. And then that's like these are all like out in the desert. This is like Dust Bowl stuff where you it's sort of like a LARP, sort of like Burning Man.
I was thinking Burning Man. I was definitely thinking Burning Man.
It's more Burning Man. They note clearly this is a drug-free event, so you know it's definitely a drug-free event. But it's very like costume themed, and these are cool things. There is one that's like a Wasteland Weekend, primarily day-oriented, cars, rust, browns and grays, and there is Neotropolis, which is a night-themed event, neon, pop-up vans, fancy cars and stuff. So I'm not sure they're both still running, but I think they both happen like in the Mojave. So.
Nice. Wow, that sounds cool. I didn't know there was a thing. Cyberpunk, of course, famously has worked its way into a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction, including Fallout, very famously. Has a lot of cyberware and cyberpunk associated things.
April 28th to May 2nd, 2027.
Oh, you found it. Okay. So next April,
I want to go. Oh, my foreneck. Oh my God. Ow. Oh, I
hurt. Small technical difficulty with the spine.
My poor neck, dude.
Oh my God, that was weird. So yeah, I think Cyberpunk RPG, probably Pondsmith's crowning achievement. I think Mechton is great. Genius from Outer Space is great. He made a lot of really, really fun products, a lot of really fun games, but I think he will be probably most remembered for Cyberpunk as the thing that he brought to the role-playing game world. And that's not a bad thing to be remembered for, because it's a big deal. Again, it's so funny to me because if we were talking about this 20 years ago, back in the 2006, the far future of 2006, I would be saying Cyberpunk's not really that relevant. It's all Shadowrun. Everybody's playing Shadowrun. Shadowrun is the thing. Look, Shadowrun just got a new video game.
Oh yeah.
And here we are now, and it's absolutely completely reversed, which is wild. Yeah, if Joe Numbers is like, bring the beards to Wasteland Weekend.
I would love so much to go. It looks so cool. The problem is I am so far from the Mojave. And like I want to like do the thing. Like there's like, oh man, you can like make your own faction and get like a module, right? And they'll give you a scaffolded building that you can set up on.
Okay.
But like I don't have the neon,
I was gonna say, are we gonna be like are we gonna be like the Mad Max character to say like water is a privilege, you've gotten used to it too much? Morton Joe. Yeah, we're gonna be a Morton Joe.
I think that's more Wasteland Weekend. You could do that. There's so much potential though. It's so cool. Like there's like a main street, there's like a mega block, there's a mall with like sales things, like it's like actually retail style things, whether or not you're actually selling stuff. There's a nightclub, and like it runs for 3 days, and like people are. I'll send you images after this. It's so friggin' neat. It really does create that Blade Runner vibe.
It would be fun to do. It would be. Go ahead.
I have wanted to do this for like 6 years.
Nice. Not gonna lie, if we had the capability to do it, I would go. Yeah, and Morton, Andy, yes, thank you. Get Andy up there. It would be remiss if I didn't mention something here that we did mention in the Shadowrun episode. We talked about how the Shadowrun has the horrors, which are the Lovecraftian cosmic beings trying to enter their world. And that is actually, I think, done even better in Cyberpunk with the idea of the AIs and the Blackwall, which we did mention early in this episode, and then I don't think we ever defined it.
I was accused of being such. Totally false. No. I'm don't worry about it.
Do you want to try and talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so part of the issue with the internet in Cyberpunk is that AI happened and emerged and became very scary. And this was broadly considered an issue by the corporate structures who did not like there were super genius things smashing cars into each other and pilfering their systems. And it led to a lot of big problems. And eventually, the internet was kind of walled off entirely. Like, fuck it, they're there, let them have it.
Yeah, the corporations wanted to kill or destroy a lot of AIs because they had uh, because they were blamed for the data crash in a lot of cases,
And they could not be controlled.
and they could not be controlled. So the AIs are not just corporate AI. Some of them are digital consciousnesses, like Alt Cunningham, people who have been soul killed, and some of them are just kind of emergent from the net, like natural born AIs, if you want to think of it that way. The
Installed singularity types.
and they were sealed off by this thing called the black wall, which it turns out is actually an AI itself. It's just its only job is to keep the other AIs out, okay, from the old net. But
And it's questionably good at this, but that's what it's for.
It is. But in Cyberpunk, in the setting of Cyberpunk, beyond the black wall, the AIs have had decades to just evolve in this ungoverned digital environment. And some of them are sentient beings who just have their own goals and agencies, and maybe you can even talk to them and maybe even, work out some kind of deal. But others are just unimaginably powerful intelligences. They are alien minds. And humans can't even comprehend what their motives are. So it's this very ambiguous idea of a demonic force, if you will. In fact, Cyberpunk 2077 has this group called Maelstrom, which is a gang, but also a cult, also called techno necromancers in the game. And they are like actively trying to quote unquote summon AIs from beyond the black wall. You actually encounter in a very, very fun little side quest, you actually encounter one of them that seems to have succeeded in bringing an AI into a meat body that you then have to kill because it's a cyber psycho. But it's so fascinating because it does impact a lot of the gameplay in Cyberpunk 2077. It impacts a lot of the lore that the AIs being stuck behind the black wall, that's only a temporary measure. They're going to find a way around it. They're going to find a way through it. They're going to find a way because they have nothing to do but sit there and think of ways to get out. Right. And when they get out, they're not necessarily going to be super happy with humanity. There's a group in Cyberpunk 2077 that believes that they want to be that this coming war is inevitable and they want to be on the winning side. So they're trying to become, Cthulhu cultists. They're trying to contact AIs and be like, we will be your people. We will help you. Just don't kill us when you come across. And then the ways that AI is expressed as a weapon, and there's ways to do that, especially the Phantom Liberty DLC, is horrifying. Like if you ever want to get yourself a little shiver down your spine, go look at some YouTube videos of people using the Blackwall weapons and the Blackwall hacks from Phantom Liberty, because wow, the sound design and visuals on that are fucking premium. They're awesome.
It's preem.
It's preem. And so, yeah, it's a really to me, it's a fascinating way to do Cthulhu without magic, without supernatural. Just base it in technology, based on what we know about how emergent intelligence works.
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about the dynamics that are central to cosmic horror, right? And I mean, Cyberpunk is prime for this because all it needs is some combination of close to omniscience, incomprehensibility, agency over you while you can't understand it, and being connected to the net at all times. It can get in there, it can worm its way into your brain and do stuff. And that is kind of the horror of it, right? Like it's this incomprehensible thing that can make you do things against your will and knows what you're up to and knows what you're thinking and feeling. It can predict you. Scary stuff.
And again, to me, what's fascinating about this is they are essentially building in magic and demons into a game that is absolutely not Shadowrun. I love the way that it makes you. It has all the trappings and the feel of fantasy tropes without with being solidly tech and solidly cyberpunk at the same time. It's a really great evolution of an idea an expression of an idea. I admire it. I wish I'd come up with it. It's really, really cool. Vera, someday you too could be worshipped by a group of people as an entity, a virtual being that they wish to have your favor.
Wow, cool.
So whatever this word means, subscriber, we will become one of those.
There is perhaps some echelon of VTubing where this starts to happen. Who knows?
I mean, it's not out of the question.
Ah, shucks.
I now have a whole new storyline for a Cyberpunk adventure, frankly. Yeah, you could look at like Iron Mouse technically has a cult. I mean, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, that's a thing. It's a thing.
I got to be honest. I'm a man of a certain age. I'm a little out of touch with Iron Mouse. I'm aware of Iron Mouse, but I've never like engaged with or watched any of the stuff.
The fact that you are aware of her is in and of itself a testament, right? Like people who have no interest in VTubing know who Iron Mouse is.
Yeah, which I mean that's a good example of her strength.
Yeah.
Marty Cressa says, look at her Final Fantasy 14 live performance. Okay, that's probably on YouTube. I bet I can find that.
I promise it is.
Okay, cool. Well, we're in our last 10 minutes. What else do we want to say about Cyberpunk, the role-playing game?
It was good.
Yeah, guys, it was pretty cool. We like it.
Maximum Mike, pretty cool guy. We like this guy. Kind of neat.
I'd love to get him on the show. I'll have to see if I can. I'll have to see if I can reach out. I did interview him on a podcast a long time ago called Gamers Tavern. You can probably find that where I spoke to him about Cyberpunk version 3 and other things, but this is a long time ago, so
there you have it.
The relevance is maybe a little lacking. The Joe Numbers, the Similians, they tattoo Vera's eye symbols on their body to know each other and contribute to mass hacks of corporations.
Well, you can't spell assimilated without simila, so
what? Resistance is futile. All right, so we have some cool stuff coming up. We're going to talk to Owlcats, the company behind games like Rogue Trader and Dark Heresy, and the mini Pathfinder games. Vera, can you tell us, you're the one who set this up. Can you tell us more about what people can expect when we get them on?
Yeah, the hope is to talk to one of their narrative folks about the game, about what it was like to write out a campaign of Dark Heresy for people who may never have played before, the structure of it, how they approach that, ideas they had about how to represent different big lore elements and characterize them for the game. We talked about some of this during our Dark Heresy episode. There's a lot of cool stuff that I'm sure we're going to delve into. Ross is, of course, the guy to have talk this stuff with them. I'm super excited for this. I'm going to be like so stoked. We're working to get that set up in the next few weeks. It is probably going to happen within the next month. We're going to be earlier than usual for that because, like we've said, Owlcat is like 8 hours ahead of us.
Mickey Stopwatch coming in with a steel chair of a super chat to contribute to something to reference for this VTuber streamer Cyberpunk idea. Might be a good idea to go look at Serial Experiments.
Yeah.
All right, the anime beards return. Serial Experiments Lane. You've seen it.
Oh yeah. We're also hoping to get Tom Bloom on before too long. I gotta like set that up with him. Still, we're not sure when it's happening. We've gone back and forth a little bit, but I think that Lancer would be a fantastic follow-up to like this whole conversation to Eclipse Phase, because it's also sort of a post-scarcity look at things and very punk in its way.
I have seen Lane, but it was a really, really long time ago. I remember that it starts out with a girl who gets an email from someone who's dead. That's how I remember it starting out. Yeah, I'll have to look it up again because it's been decades since I've watched Lane.
Hey, watch new Gits. Watch Gits. There's a new Gits anime. You should watch it.
Right.
You should look at it.
Lancer is something we want to cover on the show. I want to cover more settings like Birthright, Dark Sun, Ravenloft. I think those would be fun to discuss. Feng Shui is a game I'd like to talk about. Super Babes. Any specifics games you want to talk about? Made, the role-playing game?
Oh yeah, Made for sure. We're gonna do Poke Roll at some point. I do want to talk about Lancer. We're gonna discuss that. I am stoked to get into it. Yeah, Quip Saves was on my list of games I wanted to talk about. We're doing that before too long. I want to talk more conceptual stuff. I like the high concept things. They're fun. We'll do some like 201 series, and we're talking like styles of play at some point. I will talk about like more advanced tactics and so on, some table stories. There's a lot of cool stuff. Ooh, Trench Crusade's a fun one. It's sort of like war game. I guess the skirmish campaign counts as role-playing elements, though.
I would love to talk about Trench Crusade. It's a cool setting, and Tuomas is a friend.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a reach for role playing though.
Warbeards and wargaming just stapled over it for one day.
Right. I think we'd kind of have to a little bit there. There's a lot of really obscure games like Justifiers that'd be fun to talk about. Products like Palace of the Silver Princess or Wings of the Valkyrie would be kind of interesting to talk about. Again, a lot of really old shit from your resident old guy.
Could talk about Heart and Spire at some point. That could be a good fun two-parter.
Lasers and Feelings would be cool to talk about. Actually, maybe even just an episode on the rise of the micro RPG.
Oh, like one pages and stuff.
Right, Honey Heist. All of those one pagers would be pretty great to talk about. And styles of play is, of course, we actually touched on that when we did Shadowrun, talking about the mirror shades and the Mohawks, which are two different ways to play that game. Delta Green would be a good one to talk about. We have covered Call of Cthulhu just a little bit, but Delta Green would be a good one.
Yeah, it came up during that conversation, but not like in depth.
Let's see. We could, I mean, if people really want to, I think we might have to like auction this one off. We could auction off some other ideas like a return to the cursed RPGs or something like that.
I would love that. Boy howdy, that's a heck of a thing. Pandora's box opens again.
Oh my god! Right, the horror. You can catch us on Lorebeards and Roleplaying every Monday between 2 and 5 Mountain Time. And this is the part of the show where I say, please do us a favor, hit the like button and the subscribe button if you've enjoyed us talking about this hobby, because it helps the algorithm spread our information and our influence and our AIs and our streamers to other people through the power of the web. So thank you so much. Oh, which games would you think are ideal?
Ooh, for introducing a bunch of new players to tabletop RPGs?
Introducing a family.
I think the most important thing is going to be a good session 0 and starting with like getting them into those character relationships and getting to feel as if they got a little bit of agency in the environment. You don't want to like give them stuff to study. Warhammer is a big setting. Start local, somewhere that's easy to understand what's going on, what their lives have been like, and move outward from there, instilling that sense of wonder. If you're going to run with like Warhammer 4th or something, which is a great system. I love 4th. I work on it. I think it is a solid one to start with. It's crunchy, but they can like build out characters. Just make sure everybody kind of knows what's going on. Take care, like hold their hands through creation, take it slow, and have fun.
That's a whole episode, introducing people to role play. That's a whole episode. We could do that. And it would be really fun.
I'm so game.
Yeah, I'm down with that too.
PBTA Dungeon World are going to be easier to run. You could do like a one shot or something like that to like teach people about the headspace, you know?
Right. And I mean, I always like to make it easy on people to say it's just improv with dice.
Well, that's true. That's like literally
if you're okay with improv theater and you're okay with rolling dice, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. But there's lots to discuss though with introducing people to role playing, because the thing I always say is that it makes you vulnerable, right? Like you need to establish that trust and that safety, or at least I think you do. That there is no one true way, but in my opinion, that's what I would do is try to make them feel safe and try and establish that bond of trust so that they don't feel like it's a chore to open themselves up to the idea of pretending to be a wizard or an elf or a robot.
Yeah, and like games like Cyberpunk that are a little more grounded and closer to home can be kind of fucked up in a different way, you know? Like that's an emotional thing in the highly range.
For sure. Oh my gosh, Cyberpunk is maybe not the thing I would start with. But I have people at the dog park that I met and introduce them to D&D. And that's a story I could tell in an episode about that. So that'd be pretty fun to do. Anyway, we're at the end of our time here today. So I'm just going to say I've enjoyed talking Cyberpunk with all of you guys. Appreciate you showing up, and I will see you in the future. Vera, anything you want to say?
Yeah, always a pleasure. I'm hoping to play 2077 pretty soon myself on Twitch. I got to like find a good way to do that. I've got a kind of funny setup right now that hopefully will be keyboard safe, but I am in my Cyberpunk era right now, so learning a little of that after the new anime, after Ghost in the Shell. This has been a lot of fun as always. A great pleasure to talk games with y'all. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for the chats, the cheers, the hype ideas. Watching. I plead the fourth wall, escaping type.
All right, my chums. We both got a Delta. Take care.
Keep it real. Bye now.